Giving rice but not firewood, lending a shirt but not shoes. Giving rice relates to the belief that food is necessary for survival, and offering rice to the needy also builds one's own virtue. Thus, most people won't hesitate to provide it. However, firewood is widely available, and one can obtain it by simply working hard. Therefore, it's believed that you should help in emergencies, not just to support perpetual poverty. This teaches that constant help might lead people to rely on aid instead of working hard themselves. They may become lazy and careless, expecting others to support them without the drive to improve their lives. Not lending shoes is also a practical advice since everyone has different foot sizes, making it hard to find a perfect fit. Similarly, everyone has a unique path in life. Just because one method works for one person doesn't mean it will work for another. Everyone has different worldviews and strengths, so it's important to find your own way using your personal abilities and desires. 2. The Zen of Training, Mastering Calm in the Art of Cockfighting. Zhuangzi tells a story about training fighting roosters. King Qi asked his trainer, Ji Chang, to prepare a rooster for battle, as he was very fond of cockfighting and hoped for an exceptional bird. After 10 days, the king inquired if the rooster was ready. Ji Chang replied that it was not, explaining that the bird was still too proud and aggressive, traits that might seem ideal to the untrained eye, but not to a skilled trainer. Another 10 days passed, and upon the king's inquiry, Ji Chang stated the rooster was still not ready as it reacted too quickly to other birds, wanting to fight immediately. 10 days later, although the rooster had become less reactive, Ji Chang noted that it still harbored resentment in its eyes. After another 10 days, Ji Chang finally declared the rooster ready. It no longer cared about the provocations of other birds, standing calm and collected, much like the wooden roosters of folk sayings, which are seen as foolish yet unbothered. Ji Chang explained that the bird had reached the highest level of virtue, focusing inward and possessing a presence so serene that other roosters would flee from it. This story illustrates a higher level of training, transcending the overt display of strength and aggression. Instead, it emphasizes inner strength and virtue, showing that true mastery and victory in battle come not from external bravado, but from profound internal composure. 3. The Greedy Man. During the time of the Han and Sui dynasties, there was a man who was very greedy for money. Despite being poor, thoughts of having a lot of money constantly filled his mind. One day, he saw a store selling small gold statues, a place where the wealthy townspeople often shopped. Unable to resist his desires, he decided to steal a statue. He dressed nicely and pretended to browse through the town stores. After spotting a gold statue on display, he quickly grabbed it and ran away. However, the guards noticed and caught him quickly. When asked why he dared to steal in broad daylight with many people around, the man simply replied that he hadn't paid any attention to his surroundings. This story teaches us that greed can make a person blind, to the point of losing common sense. The man in the story was so focused on the gold statue that he wasn't aware of the risks involved in stealing. Similarly, there are people in life who only think about money and fame, making everything else seem insignificant in their eyes, even the happiness they already hold. 4. Illness due to a snake. During the Jin dynasty, there was a man named Guang. One day, he invited a friend over to his house. Upon arrival, Guang noticed that his friend looked unwell. When asked, the friend explained that he had felt sick since the last time he attended a party at Guang's house. That day, he had drunk from a cup that appeared to have a small snake inside. As a result, he became seriously ill and had been bedridden. Guang was puzzled, as he couldn't imagine why he would put a snake in his friend's drink. He looked around the room and noticed a bow hanging on the wall with a snake design on it. Realizing what happened, Guang poured some wine into a cup and asked his friend to stand where he had during the party, then to look into the cup again. The friend saw the reflection of the snake from the bow and insisted it was there. Guang smiled, took down the bow, and suddenly, the snake disappeared. His friend was surprised to see the snake was actually not there. It had been just a reflection. Once the misunderstanding was cleared up, he quickly recovered. This story reminds us not to be overly suspicious of things that aren't necessary. We should think logically and consider our assumptions before jumping to conclusions. Otherwise, we might create many problems over things that don't even exist. 5. The kind teacher. There was a student who grew up in a very poor family. They didn't even have a place to bathe. So, during the summer, he would have to bathe in the river, which was especially cold in the winter, making his baths quite lengthy. One day, his school assigned a new teacher to his class. Since the teacher was busy, he often asked the boy and another student to help make charcoal at his house. After they finished, the teacher would let them take a hot bath to thank them for their help before they went home. The boy always enjoyed helping his teacher and, naturally, was often asked to come over to assist. Years later, at a party, the once poor student, now somewhat successful in his career, proudly shared these past experiences with everyone, feeling quite pleased with himself. At the end of the party, the teacher's daughter, who was also there, texted him saying, "Actually, my dad didn't really need you to do those chores. He wanted to give you a place to bathe." Reading this message on his phone, the boy was moved to tears. He then realized that his teacher had treated him with such kindness over the years without him ever knowing. Not only did the teacher help him deal with life's hardships, but he also carefully preserved the boy's dignity and provided support in every possible way. 6. A kind-hearted singing competition judge. During a singing competition, a contestant seemed quite embarrassed when he introduced himself as an event singer. One of the judges, not understanding, asked him, "What is an event singer?" Another judge casually explained, "It's when a big building has an event. They started off with a ribbon-cutting ceremony, and at that moment, the singer performs their piece." The first judge quickly responded, "Oh, then it's not much different from what we do." This clever remark from the judge not only resolved the contestants' embarrassment and self-doubt, but also subtly protected their dignity, making the atmosphere of the competition warmer. True kindness can make everyone around feel that everything, although simple, is filled with humanity. There's an old saying, "Evil feared to be known is the greatest evil. Good that seeks acknowledgement is not true goodness." Kindness is not just about having a compassionate heart, but also empathy. For example, consider a case where business people sponsor poor mountain children. They organize a donation ceremony at a school's sports field, witnessed by all teachers and students. These businessmen usually stack a pile of cash to form a small mountain, and then invite the media to take pictures of the children with the money. Such public welfare activities happen annually. During these events, the businessmen wear neat suits, smile perfectly, and face the cameras, while the children, unfamiliar with such grand events, can only bow their heads, clutch at their clothes nervously, and look worried. And it doesn't stop there. After the photos, the children must face the cameras and describe their family's dire circumstances. This process often robs many children of their optimism and confidence. Although they receive financial aid, it comes at the cost of their self-esteem and dignity. What these businessmen do is not true kindness, but ambition under the guise of benevolence, nor is it genuine goodwill, but a malicious intent disguised as charity. 7. The Foot of the Young Monk. In the Tang dynasty at Mount Wutai, there was a famous Zen master named Master Ma, who liked to use challenging methods to teach his disciples. One day he used this approach to help a young disciple understand a truth. Master Ma was sitting on a chair in a narrow path behind the temple reading a book. His legs were stretched out on the path. A young monk was pushing a cart from the vegetable garden back to the temple and could not pass because the path was too narrow and Master Ma's legs were in the way. The young monk politely asked him to move his legs. Surprisingly, Master Ma didn't move and said, "My legs are always stretched out, they never retract." The young monk was stunned and a bit stuck, then said, "Master, if you don't move your legs, I can't return to the temple." Master Ma, without even looking at the young monk, said, "That's your problem." The young monk thought for a moment and then said, "Master, since you only stretch and don't retract, I cannot pass. Let's switch places. I'll sit on the chair and you push the cart." After hearing this, Master Ma found it interesting and switched places with his disciple. When it was the young monk's turn, he initially stretched his legs out straight, but when Master Ma pushed the cart towards him, he quickly pulled his legs in. Master Ma asked, "Why did you retract your legs?" The young monk smiled and said, "Master, you only stretch and don't retract, but I can do both, so I pulled them in." After that, the young monk pushed the cart away, and Master Ma watched him go with a proud smile. Years later, Master Ma passed on his mantle to this young monk, who became a great monk at Mount Wu Tai, known as Zen Master Yin Feng. 8. The eagle that plucked its own feathers. There were two eagles. One flew very fast while the other flew quite slowly. Feeling envious, the slower eagle tried to harm its rival. Unfortunately, it only ended up harming itself. One day, the slow eagle told a hunter, "Ahead lies a fast-flying eagle. Please shoot it down with your arrow." The hunter replied, "I could, but my arrow is missing a feather. Could you provide one of yours?" The slow eagle agreed, saying, "Of course. If it means you can shoot it, one feather is no big deal." And it plucked one out generously to give to the hunter. The hunter prepared his bow and aimed at the fast eagle, but since it had flown too high, he missed. He then asked the slow eagle, "How about another feather?" The eagle complied, plucking another feather for him. However, the hunter missed again. This pattern continued until the slow eagle had no feathers left and could no longer fly. The hunter then said, smiling, "Here's an eagle that can't fly. Why should I exhaust myself trying to shoot the one in the sky?" and captured the featherless eagle. This story teaches us two lessons. Those who intend to harm others often end up harming themselves. There's an old saying, "One who digs a hole for others will fall into it themselves." What drove the eagle to pluck its own feathers? It was jealousy that made it unbearable for the eagle to see another flying higher and faster. Jealousy brings misfortune. Think about it. Who wouldn't be upset to see their sibling succeed? Isn't that a malevolent spirit? When we get angry, we are doing what malevolent forces desire. The higher you fly, the safer you are. The eagle that was targeted flew high and was unreachable. If you want to overcome adversity and avoid attacks, strive to reach higher grounds. 9. Your spouse should not look. Your partner should not touch. Your spouse should not look. Your partner should not touch. This proverb from our ancestors reminds everyone, whether married or not, to avoid becoming too familiar or intimate with someone else's spouse. It is essential to maintain decorum and moderation, as overstepping these boundaries is considered highly unethical. In Chapter 80 of Journey to the West, Sun Wukong needed to borrow the banana fan from Princess Iron Fan, the wife of the Bull Demon King, to cross the Flame Mountain. Confident due to his sworn brotherhood with the Bull Demon King, Sun Wukong approached his sister-in-law. However, misunderstanding ensued, leading the Bull Demon King to scold Sun Wukong. You previously tricked my wife into lending you the fan. When she refused, she came to me, and yet you still pursue her. Thus the bull demon king's words spread widely, reminding all to control their desires and adhere to ethical standards, as engaging or luring a friend's spouse is strictly forbidden. 1. Your friend's wife should not be oppressed. In ancient teachings, your friend's wife should not be oppressed is targeted at men, implying not only should one not bully or deceive their friend's wife, but also should not covet her. This concept has been handed down through generations because forming overly close bonds with a friend's spouse can not only cause gossip, but also potentially harm one's friendships and even their marriage. For instance, during the Song dynasty, Liu Qi and Jiang Zheng were close brothers. Liu Qi married a woman named Huang Mei. Jiang Zheng, who often visited and stayed for meals, began to develop feelings for Huang Mei, appreciating her virtues. Although difficult to express, Liu Qi eventually recognized this during a dinner where a server accidentally spilled soup on Jiang Zheng, giving Liu Qi an opportunity to subtly address the situation. Embarrassed, Jiang Zheng realized his mistake and ceased his admiration for Huang Mei. Over time, ethical standards have declined, and the saying has evolved to, "Your friend's wife need not be treated formally," leading to unfortunate instances of friends betraying one another. The original saying serves as a caution to control one's desires and uphold one's moral standards. 2. Your friend's husband should not be touched. The less-known continuation of your friend's wife should not be oppressed is your friend's husband should not be touched, specifically addressing women. It means women should maintain a distance from their friend's husband. Ancient wisdom teaches that men and women should not directly exchange things, but should do so through a third party, reflecting Confucian ideals that traditionally discouraged intimate contact between men and women outside of marriage. In modern times, however, some women not only intentionally fall in love with their friend's husband, but also actively pursue him. The TV series Love Isn't Wrong, The Mistake Is Your Friend depicts two close friends who become enemies over a man, mirroring real-life scenarios where such betrayals occur. This highlights the issue of the third person in relationships and underscores the importance of appreciating and remaining faithful to one's own spouse or finding true love elsewhere, regardless of gender. 10. Things wise people don't brag about. In his book, Dream of Shadows, written during the Qing dynasty, Truong Tru described the classic Journey to the West as a book of enlightenment. It seems to tell the story of Tong Sanzang's challenging journey to the West to fetch sacred texts, encountering demons and spirits along the way. However, it actually interprets the essence of human life. Each character and their trials in the book embody wisdom in dealing with others. After reading Journey to the West, we understand that truly accomplished people never boast about these four things. Wealth. When Tang Sanzang and his disciples were passing through a monastery, they were generously hosted by Elder Kim Tree, who, impressed by Tang Sanzang's remarkable appearance and assuming he came from a prosperous country, thought he must possess valuable treasures. However, Tang Sanzang was modest and would not boast about his possessions, even if he had any. On the contrary, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, enjoyed showing off and causing trouble. This tendency only invited greed and trouble from others who would go to great lengths to obtain such treasures. Abilities. Sun Wukong, after becoming a disciple of the Bodhi Patriarch, quickly learned magical abilities, including cloud flying and shape-shifting. Once, urged by his fellow disciples to showcase his powers, he did so extravagantly. However, his master reprimanded him, explaining that displaying such abilities could invite envy and danger. Wukong's failure to heed this advice led to his own downfall when he flaunted his powers in front of higher beings and eventually trapped himself under a mountain. Intelligence. Among Tong Sanzong's disciples, Sha Wu-jing was known for his mild and honest demeanor. However, he was also very astute in handling interpersonal relationships. He knew when to speak and act, especially in crucial moments, without showing off his cleverness. His approach often resolved potential conflicts gracefully and effectively, earning him Tang Sanzang's trust and affection. Achievements. During the havoc in the Heavenly Palace, the celestial troops could not subdue Sun Wukong. Eventually, Neza, with help from Tai Shang Lao Jun, succeeded in capturing him. However, when praised by the Jade Emperor, Neza humbly attributed the success to Guanyin and Tai Shang Lao Jun and shared the rewards with his subordinates. This modesty and ability to share credit were highly esteemed. Laozi once said, "Be born without possession and achieve without attachment." These stories from ancient texts teach us that true merit does not come from boasting about one's wealth, capabilities, intelligence, or achievements. Instead, it is about quietly doing one's best and letting one's actions speak for themselves. As Guiguzi, an ancient philosopher, advised, the way of the sage is to know when to remain hidden. This highlights that humility and discretion are the foundations of lasting success and respect.
Hey everyone, your comments truly matter, offering insights and motivation to others and uplifting our creative team at Lighthouse of Wisdom channel. Sharing your thoughts and experiences enriches our community. So, let's get the conversation started below and help illuminate our path with your wisdom.
11. The Philosopher, the Farmer, and the Cow, a lesson in persuasion. A philosopher once tried to get a cow into a barn. No matter how hard he pushed or pulled, the cow refused to go inside. A farmer passing by saw this struggle and smiled. He picked some grass from the ground and held it in front of the cow. To the philosopher's surprise, the cow willingly followed the farmer into the barn. Reflecting on this, the philosopher concluded that everyone has their own strengths, much like how a farmer may handle cattle better than a philosopher. To get others to do something, force is ineffective, no matter how hard you try. In reality, what we need to do is offer a bit of kindness and hope. Life doesn't always work the way we want. By putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, things might go smoother. 12. The Eagle Sculpture. That knew how to fly. A sculptor once created a stone eagle that looked incredibly lifelike, as if it were soaring high in the sky. A philosopher, intrigued by this, approached the sculptor and asked, "How were you able to make this stone look like it's flying?" The sculptor replied, "Actually, I just removed the unnecessary parts of the stone." This teaches us that even a simple rock can become a lively eagle, seeming to fly if the excess is carved away. This reminded the philosopher of a moral lesson. Even if humans are as dull as rocks, they can still rise up, provided they shed their excess burdens. Essentially, the temptations of life are like the surplus parts of the stone. When faced with temptations, if one desires everything and refuses to give up anything, then nothing is ultimately discarded. Life then becomes a heavy stone, and we will never become eagles soaring high. Therefore, if people want to reach great heights, they only need to let go of their unnecessary baggage. 13. The Shepherd and the Invisible String. There was a shepherd walking steadily forward, stepping from left to right. Following him was a sheep, trotting along even though it was not tied with a rope. It stayed close to the shepherd like a shadow, also moving from left to right without straying. A philosopher noticed this and found it quite strange. He asked the shepherd, You're not using a rope to lead the sheep, so why does it follow you so closely? The shepherd replied, What binds the sheep isn't a rope, but the care and love you show them. This answer made the philosopher think. To maintain a bond between people, it isn't about physically holding or restricting them with a visible rope, but rather it relies on the care and love you provide. 14. The Farmer's Gourd. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who grew a huge gourd. Instead of being happy, he was puzzled about what to do with it. He worried it might break if used to store wine. If cut in half to make a scoop for water, it would be too big for any bucket available. A philosopher, after witnessing this, commented, People only think of gourds as containers for water, but did you know they can also be used as boats on water? Isn't that wonderful? Often, people limit their thinking to the conventional uses of things, which can prevent them from finding new solutions. In reality, if we break away from old habits and thoughts, we can overcome mental blocks and discover a much bigger world. 15. If you're willing to do the work, even the difficult becomes easy. If you're not, even the easy becomes difficult. This quote is from the renowned book Vi Hak Nhat Thu Ki Tu Chat, shortened as Vi Hak, by Bon Don Thuk from the Qing dynasty. The original text says, Are there not things in the world that are difficult or easy? If you're willing to do them, the difficult becomes easy. If not, the easy becomes difficult. Bon Don Thuk illustrates this idea with a story about two monks from a remote area in the land of Shu, one poor and the other wealthy. The poor monk told the wealthy monk, I want to go to the southern sea, what do you think? The wealthy monk asked, What will you rely on for your journey? The poor monk replied, I only need a jug and a bowl. The wealthy monk responded, For years I've wanted to hire a boat to go there and couldn't succeed. What makes you think you can do it? A year later, the poor monk returned from the southern sea and shared his experiences, which made the wealthy monk feel ashamed. Despite the thousands of miles distance, the poor monk achieved his goal, unlike the wealthy one. Surely, a person who is determined to seek the way should not be underestimated, just like the poor monk from the distant land of Shuai. 16. The Power of Solitude. According to the Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi, coming alone and going alone represents the highest state of human existence. Those who achieve this state are like unparalleled masters who, after periods of intense personal development, become invincible. Being alone allows you to gather all your energy to overcome your weaknesses, marking the start of true strength. Zhuangzi wrote in his book, The vastness of heaven and earth is sublime, yet they do not speak. The seasons follow clear patterns, yet they do not discuss. All things embody principles, yet they do not show off. Indeed, the universe holds profound truths, but has always existed in a state of calm and non-action. Only those who are restless at heart prefer ceaseless chatter. In life, no one can escape solitude. We are born alone and die alone. Today we gather, tomorrow we part. No one can stay with us forever. Talking to others might relieve loneliness temporarily, but it doesn't cure it. The more you talk, the emptier you may feel. When you stop talking, loneliness surrounds you again. Sometimes it's better to digest your experiences privately, as sharing them might turn them into jokes. Don't waste the time you have for yourself. Only in solitude, free from noise and fear, can you truly learn how to change the world. Some say only by crossing the barren Gobi Desert can one find a refreshing stream. Life is a long journey walked alone. Idle talk is less valuable than maintaining inner peace. Being alone means truly understanding yourself. Some say that a crowd is actually a gathering of lonely people. The truly lonely are the truly free. When alone, one discovers their most authentic self and liberates their inner being. Those who enjoy socializing continue to search, but few find even one or two close friends. People who prefer solitude might seem indifferent, but they are actually fully understanding and befriending themselves. Solitude also allows us to spend time on ourselves and do what we want. Even in solitude, we can feel comfortable and free. People who are overly polite often live tired lives, bending to others only to diminish themselves. Life is precious, so don't let idle talkers waste your time. True solitude means avoiding external interference and maintaining an independent spirit. Being alone strengthens oneself. There's a saying, be lonely or be mediocre. Those who stand strong alone endure all storms. Don't fear hard times. Whatever doesn't defeat you eventually makes you stronger. Every successful person has forged their path alone through difficult times. Behind moments of glory are often pain and tears. Learn to endure solitude and turn it into a habit like an eagle, or be like sheep who follow the crowd for the comfort of group security. After a period of solitary cultivation, one's soul can become steadfast and enlightened. Then, your approach to tasks becomes strategic, as swift as the wind, as steady as a mountain, invasive as fire, immovable as a mountain, unpredictable as the night, and thunderous as a storm. Those who walk their path alone are formidable characters, and such a person is rarely defeated later in life. Being alone is the best way to strengthen oneself. Historically, sages preferred solitude, and the truly strong tend to walk alone. Being alone gives us time to reflect on ourselves, stay away from the hustle and bustle of society, and return to peace. Solitude makes us resilient, independent of others' strength, and unaffected by their opinions. So cherish your time alone, be true to yourself, and achieve personal success within your finite time. 17. Gaining insight through focus. Long ago, there were two mountains, one facing north and the other south. Each mountain had a temple on top, commonly referred to as North Temple and South Temple. Every morning, a young monk from each temple would go down to the village market to buy vegetables. These young monks were full of youthful energy and had not yet mastered their emotions, often finding themselves at odds with each other. Whenever they met at the market, they would secretly or sometimes openly challenge each other. One day, the young monk from South Temple asked, "Where are you going?" The monk from North Temple replied, "I go wherever my feet take me." Unable to respond, the monk from South Temple felt frustrated and quickly finished his shopping to return and discuss this with his master. The head monk of South Temple, also not very wise, suggested using the same question next time, and if the response was the same, to retort with, "What if you had no feet, where would you go then?" thinking this would ensure a victory. The next morning, as usual, the two young monks met at the market. The South Temple monk asked again, "Where are you going?" This time, the North Temple monk said, "I go wherever the wind takes me." Stumped again, the young monk from South Temple was lost for words and returned to his temple disheartened. Seeing his pupil's gloomy face, the master asked if his advice hadn't worked. After hearing what had happened, he laughed, patted the young monk's head, and suggested, "Next time, ask him, if there was no wind, where would you go?" The following day, confident of a win and eager to silence his rival, the young monk from South Temple rushed to ask the North Temple monk, "Where are you going?" This time, the answer was simply, "I'm going to the market." The South Temple monk had nothing to say because it would be absurd to ask, "If there was no market, where would you go?" The master, upon learning of this, sighed and shared some wisdom. Watching the sunset, one realizes the impermanence of life. Observing the clouds, one sees their carefree nature. Looking at mountains, one appreciates their marvelous creation. Gazing at the sea, one feels its vastness. True learning lies in focusing and discovering on your own. Understanding cannot depend on others. What belongs to others will always remain theirs. Only what you discover yourself truly becomes yours. 18. Roots and tops. Once upon a time, there was a young man who always liked to brag about himself in front of others. One day, his master took him to a tree and asked, "Do you think the top of this tree is beautiful?" "Of course, the tree is full of fresh, beautiful flowers," the disciple quickly replied. Just then, a breeze blew by, and the tree made a rustling sound. "Did you hear that?" the master continued. "Of course I did. The sound from the top of the tree is so clear and pleasant," the young man answered promptly. "But do you know what the top of the tree is called in Chinese?" "It's called mat," the master explained, then pointed to the base of the tree. "Do you see the roots? Do you hear any sound from the roots?" The young man frowned and replied, "No, sir, the roots are buried in the ground. How can I see them? And they are silent. How can I hear any noise from them, master?" "Do you know what the roots are called in Chinese?" "They are called ban," the master clarified. This means that although the tree's top, full of flowers, may be lively and catch the attention of those around, it is very fragile and can break easily with just a strong wind, losing all its value thereafter. But the roots, even though they are quiet and buried underground, are the foundation of life. Without them, there would be no tree, no leaves, no branches, and of course no flowers on the treetop to sway and show off in the wind. Do you understand what I'm saying? The young man bowed his head and nodded, absorbing the deep lesson from his master. From then on, he became more reserved and spoke very considerately, especially never bragging in front of others again. 19. The Three Marvelous Doors. In life, we often face many disappointments, confront the differences and flaws in others and even in ourselves, which can be frustrating and upsetting. How can we maintain a peaceful and forgiving mindset? The following 3 doors from the teachings of Buddha provide an answer. There once was a prince who asked his father's teacher, Buddha Siddhartha Gautama, "What will my future path in life be like?" Buddha answered, "On your path, you will encounter 3 doors. Each door has a message written on it, and you will understand when you see them. After you pass the 3rd door, I will be waiting for you on the other side." The prince set off on his journey. Before long, he came to the first door, which read, "Change the world." The prince thought, "I should strive to change the world according to my ideals, to transform all things that displease me." And so he did. Years later, he reached the 2nd door, which read, "Change others." The prince thought, "I should use good ideas to influence others, to make their characters more righteous." And he acted accordingly. After more years, he arrived at the 3rd door, which read, "Change yourself." The prince thought, "I must perfect my own character." And he did just that. Eventually, the prince met Buddha Siddhartha Gautama again and told him, "I have passed through the 3 doors on my life's path and have seen the messages on each. I've realized that changing the world is less effective than changing the people in it. Changing others is less effective than changing oneself." Buddha smiled and said, "Perhaps now you should return and take a closer look at those doors." Following Buddha's advice, the prince went back and saw the 3rd door again, but this time it was different. It read, "Accept yourself." At that moment, the prince understood why, while he was trying to change himself, he was always self-critical and distressed. It was because he refused to acknowledge and accept his own flaws and overlooked his strengths. Then he began to love and accept himself. As he continued his return journey, the prince saw that the 2nd door now read, "Accept others." He realized why he had always been so frustrated and annoyed. It was because he had not accepted the differences between himself and others, nor had he tried to understand and empathize with their shortcomings. He then began to forgive others. Continuing back, he saw the first door again, now reading, "Accept the world." The prince understood why his attempts to change the world had always failed, because he had not accepted that many things in the world cannot go as one wishes. He had always tried to force others to change, neglecting to improve himself. Then he started to embrace the world with a broader heart. At that point, Buddha Siddhartha Gautama was waiting there and said to the prince, "I think you now understand what it means to be harmonious and peaceful." The story of the three doors teaches us that we should recognize both the strengths and flaws in ourselves and continuously strive to improve, becoming noble and forgiving. We should have an open and generous heart in dealing with others, put ourselves in their shoes, and always foster good relations, avoiding enmity. Only then can we live in harmony with everyone and truly be useful to society. 20. Quang Tu Nha. 3 key points in life. There's an old saying, if you don't know about Quang Tai Gong, even reading all the history books is a waste of time. Quang Tu Nha was indeed a historical figure, although he didn't possess the magical powers as described in some myths. He truly exemplified the saying, talented but late bloomer. Quang Tu Nha is known for achieving fame and success late in life. Despite many struggles in his early years, by the age of over 70, he remained a quiet old man by the Wei River, unknown to many. However, at the age of 80, when he met King Chu Van Vuong, who was seeking wise talents, Quang Tu Nha finally got his chance to shine. From then on, he assisted King Chu Van Vuong and King Chu Vu Vuong, achieving significant accomplishments that left his name etched in history. Quang Tu Nha's life experience teaches us that success is not about when it happens, but is based on these 3 key principles. 1. Enduring loneliness. The poet Li Bai once said, "All the wise and virtuous from the past have endured solitude." This is especially true for Quang Tu Nha. After the downfall of the Trieu dynasty, he lived in seclusion by the Wei River until the age of 80. During this time, he was alone for at least 2 years and 4 months. To the outside world, he appeared as a simple old man, not particularly bright since he fished with a straight hook. Yet, this was his way of demonstrating patience and wisdom. Quang Tu Nha spent those years alone, continually recharging himself, preparing for the time he would make his mark. Nowadays, it's noticed that successful people often handle solitude better than those who do not succeed. They have grand visions and clear thinking, which they cultivate through continuous learning and self-improvement. 2. Being a bit foolish and mad. There's no fame without a touch of foolishness and madness, Quang Tu Nha once said in his writing, Qi Fu. This means that being a bit silly and mad about your beliefs, goals, and what you love is crucial. It's about being persistent and not forgetting your core focus, which will eventually lead to recognition. The madness is about maintaining faith in your dreams and pursuing your talents, as confidence is the ultimate secret to success. People who are a bit foolish and mad have a belief system that keeps them indifferent to others' opinions. Like Quang Tu Nha, who used a straight fishing hook while others laughed, he knew what he was aiming for, and his madness was part of his strategy. 3. Be careful with your words. Sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut and choose your words carefully, Quang Tu Nha advised in Tai Kong Kim Kwai. Throughout history, successful individuals have placed great importance on the art of speaking. Even Confucius emphasized being careful with words and actions. Reckless speech can harm others and bring trouble to oneself. Therefore, the wise speak thoughtfully, showing restraint and not boasting. Intelligent people think before they speak, considering what to say, when, and how. After all, each word you speak can either build you up or tear you down. Just like you wouldn't eat carelessly, you shouldn't speak without thinking. In life, it's crucial to hold back harmful words and maintain a standard of conduct when interacting with others. 21. Cultural taboos and traditions. Understanding the significance of head of a man, legs of a woman in folklore. In folklore, proverbs are often passed down as a representation of popular culture. They embody the wisdom of our ancestors and the life lessons they learned. While proverbs may not be as elegant as poetry or prose, they have been cherished and preserved for thousands of years due to their deep meanings. For instance, the proverb, head of a man, legs of a woman, seen but not touched, offers a profound insight from the past. Why is it said so? In ancient times, men often had long hair, while most women bound their feet, making it difficult for them to move freely. To the people back then, a man's head was considered the most important part, and only close family or elders were allowed to touch a young child's head. Touching a man's head without a close relationship was seen as disrespectful, even demeaning. In those days, a person's status was also indicated by the clothes and hat they wore. The hat, worn on the head, carried significant meaning. Therefore, touching a man's head was not done casually as it symbolized his self-respect. Unwarranted touching was seen as a serious insult. Similarly, the legs of a woman were highly regarded. It was improper for others to see a woman washing her feet, let alone touch them. There was a saying, a 3-inch golden lotus, referring to the aesthetic standards of that time. Though foot binding was later abolished, women continued to take great care of their legs, using various skincare products to prevent issues like cracked or peeling skin. Thus, for women, their legs are as sacred as the heads are to men, and neither should be touched lightly. Furthermore, some believe that the head of a man, the legs of a woman, and the waist all accumulate vital energy. Touching these areas can lead to a loss of this energy. Thus, touching a man's head or a woman's legs indicates a very close relationship. However, such actions were generally frowned upon as the old teachings emphasized proper distance between men and women. Today, with societal changes, modern attitudes differ significantly. Men and women interact more freely, touching shoulders or faces among friends and sometimes even hugging. But in public, it is still important to remember, men do not touch heads, women do not touch legs, as this remains a social taboo in many cultures. A slight misstep can be misinterpreted as an assault on a man's dignity or as sexual harassment toward a woman. 22. Needle grass, half a year of preparation for maturity. There are no shortcuts to success without hard work. Anyone aiming to achieve something must put in a lot of effort, face numerous failures, and through these, gather valuable experience that paves the way for their future. At a concert, a musician captivated the audience with his exceptional performance skills. After the concert, a music critic approached him, praising him as a rare genius of the century. The musician responded, "Everyone likes to use the word genius when they see my successful performances, but they don't realize just how hard a genius has to work to earn that reputation." The law of needle grass. In the African savanna, there grows a plant called needle grass, also known as the king of the savanna. However, its growth process is quite different from ordinary plants. For the first 6 months, needle grass remains almost the shortest grass around. In spring, while other plants rapidly grow, Needlegrass stays just about the size of a hand, appearing fragile and pitiable. It's even hard to notice any growth. But 6 months later, when the rainy season arrives, the needlegrass grows rapidly as if by magic. Each day it grows quickly, and within just a few days, needlegrass can reach over 2 meters tall, forming a sturdy wall of grass. Why can needlegrass grow so fast? During the previous 6 months, while other plants were hastily growing, needlegrass was taking a different path. It continued to extend its roots deep into the soil. Research shows its roots can reach up to 28 meters below the surface. Thanks to these deep roots, needlegrass can absorb a lot of nutrients and water from the soil. It might seem to be developing slowly, but in reality, it's quietly paving the way for its future, calmly gathering strength and waiting for the right moment, the arrival of heavy rain. While other grasses sway and catch the eye, needlegrass isn't affected or interested in competing. It focuses on gathering strength for itself and growing steadily. When the heavy rains finally come, needlegrass quickly unleashes the strength it has long accumulated. It stands tall against the storms, growing contrary to trends, and in a blink creates a wondrous sight. Most people only see needlegrass's rapid growth over a short period and don't realize how deeply its roots are embedded in the soil, how it can grow so quickly and withstand the challenges of storms. The story of the talented musician and needlegrass both remind us that the success and miracles we admire all come from one's own efforts. We don't need to worry why our efforts seem unrewarded because, bit by bit, they are accumulating for our future. The biggest difference between success and failure lies not in IQ or skills, but in perseverance and persistence. The great poet Tagore once said, "Light is right before us. If you can endure the pain and step through the darkness, your burden will become a gift, and your suffering will light your way." May those who pursue their dreams, no matter what hardships they face in life, find a way to turn them into a beacon for their future, lighting the path ahead for themselves. 23. Being idle turns us into the useless. There was a girl who, after graduating from college with a fairly high level of education, got a job at a big company. She thought that life was now set. After finishing her work each day, she would go home and just relax by watching TV shows. Meanwhile, a co-worker who she often mocked for not being as educated kept busy by studying and learning even after work hours. She thought that no matter how hard her co-worker tried, it wouldn't really help. Although both of them had the same job, worked regular hours, and handled similar tasks, it was only at the end of the day that one could see whose abilities were truly evident. 5 years later, due to professional circumstances, the company faced reforms and needed to lay off some employees. Despite her high education, she was surprisingly on that list. It was then realized that facing the younger generation, just having physical and mental strength was not enough. What really mattered was the experience accumulated over the years. Despite having graduated 8 years ago, she hadn't advanced beyond her initial capabilities, while the younger generation was rapidly advancing and producing new talents. Thus, she faced many challenges and difficulties in competing with them. Life is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't move forward, you will fall back. In a world of talented and outstanding individuals, you must continually strive to enhance your own value. The comfort of lying in bed can't compare to the warmth of a future that awaits, and the stories in books always have life lessons to teach us. Ease and complacency only make life tougher and more callous. People often lament that a midlife crisis caught them off guard, but in reality, there were countless opportunities to prevent such a crisis before it abruptly struck. Perhaps it was the choice of an easier path that gave the crisis a chance to emerge. 24. The most terrifying thing in life is being idle. People need to strive to reach their highest potential, and then they should make sure they don't fall into idleness. The famous Chinese writer Shen Tongwen once said, "What I fear most in life is allowing myself to become idle and lose the meaning of life." His student Wang Tongji describes Shen in an article as follows: "During winter, there was no fire to keep warm, so he wrapped himself in a cotton blanket and continued to write." In his later years, Shen did not want to spend his time resting. Instead, he compiled the book Research on Ancient Chinese Costumes, based on a vast amount of documents and studies. He always wrote while others enjoyed themselves, and he continued writing even when people questioned and criticized him. Let staying busy become the normal state of your life. It's the only way to realize its value. 25. Idle people often feel sad. Lazy people often get sick. Not letting yourself be idle isn't as bad as people often say. It's actually a blessing from above. Climbing 10 stairs without taking a breath is hard even for a young person, but 91-year-old Mr. Li Tu Lo can do it. His secret to maintaining strong health is to stay active. Every morning, he wakes up at 7, exercises for an hour, has breakfast at 8, goes for a walk, and returns to read the newspaper at 9:30. He listens to music in the afternoon, practices calligraphy, exercises for another hour, and then helps his wife with household chores. There's a saying, idle people often feel sad, lazy people often get sick, busy people are the ones who have fun. That's truly the case, as when someone is idle, their mind and body can feel tortured and tormented. During idle times, it's easy to fall into negative thinking and self-blame, and physical laziness can lead to declining health and self-reproach. On the other hand, being busy is like a precious medicine in this world. Historically, staying busy has always been the beginning of a dynamic life. Japanese author Kazuo Ishiguro once said, "Looking back at my life in my old age, seeing that I spent it capturing the unique beauty of the world, I believe I'm satisfied with it and no one can make me feel that it was wasted." There's also a story about a group of elderly people in Taiwan, averaging 81 years old, who rode motorcycles around Taiwan, which moved many people. They traveled together from north to south, from morning to night, around the island in 13 days. 2 of them had cancer, 4 needed hearing aids, 8 suffered from heart disease, and each had arthritis. In reality, what they did was not related to their age. They could choose to live quietly in a hospital at the end of their lives or bravely step outside. Life is inherently full of difficulties, but no matter how tough it is, if there is a next life, many would still choose to live with as much energy as these people, because that's how you truly realize the value of life. 26. From Riches to Rags, a cautionary tale of mismanaged fortune. An Austrian writer, Stefan Zweig, once said, "Every gift from fate hides a value behind it." There was a man in England who went from being a poor garbage collector to a millionaire overnight because he won a big prize. He quit his job and began to spend recklessly on luxury cars, drugs, prostitution, and gambling. Within 7 years, he had spent £9.7 million and ended up poor, abandoned by his wife and daughter. Material wealth can only satisfy our temporary happiness. When people indulge in pleasures and let go of their responsibilities, it becomes hard for them to find true happiness from within. Being idle might feel enjoyable for a while, but this emptiness, if repeated, eventually becomes boring. Being busy can be tiring, but if you manage and divide your time well, it can lead to wealth, happiness, and inner fulfillment. Throughout our lives, we should aim to leave something meaningful for the world. Never consider idleness a gift. What brings you joy today might destroy you tomorrow. Ideally, one should balance busyness with leisure, finding something meaningful to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. This is the most fulfilling state of life. When you start to value your time, use it wisely, and organize it effectively, you are essentially extending your life and enhancing its quality. Living life to the fullest means never giving up at any stage of life. 27. The way of balance. Things that are too hard can easily break, and those that are too soft can easily bend. Only by maintaining balance can one become invincible. The text, Rituals Balance, states, emotions like joy, anger, sorrow, and pleasure, when not yet expressed, represent balance. When expressed yet controlled, they represent harmony. Balance is the most fundamental nature of people. Harmony is the principle everyone should follow. Achieving both, the world becomes peaceful and all living things thrive. In the part Maintaining Balance from the book Analects, it's written, the virtue of balance is crucial. It's the essence of personal growth and reaching a higher state. The principle of balance is significantly influential. It implies neither leaning one way nor the other, but maintaining an equilibrium in dealing with others. The essence of harmony teaches us that everything follows a measure called degree. Ancient wisdom taught that hard things can break and soft things can bend, suggesting that one should find a middle ground. Degree is the inherent law of nature. Fitting perfectly with this law leads to smooth sailing. Otherwise, many obstacles arise. Wise people often say, having too much or too little ego is pitiable. Those with too much ego become blindly confident, leading to arrogance, stubbornness, and selfishness, which over time shapes a self-centered character. Conversely, those lacking self-motivation become overly timid, always following others without knowing what's best, overly concerned about others' views, leading a life dictated by others, which is exhausting. Thus, both exceeding and not controlling personal limits can prevent one from seeing the true nature of situations. For those exceeding their limits, only their perspective matters. They believe the majority of truths are those they define themselves. For those who don't control their impulses, they lean towards another extreme, abandoning their ability to think independently, simply believing what they are told without critical thinking. Regarding relationships, being too distant can lead to longing and distress, while being too close can cause frequent conflicts. Hence the saying, far enough to be friends, too close, and you become enemies. The ideal is finding a balance, achieving the beauty of balance and harmony at a suitable distance. Indeed, the principle of balance encompasses all aspects of our daily lives. When cooking, too much or too little salt can ruin a dish. Eating something we like should be in moderation to avoid losing the taste for it. Regarding sleep, too little means not enough energy. Too much causes physical discomfort, and mentally, it leads to exhaustion. In life, being too busy can make us forget our original purposes, unable to enjoy life's pleasures, while too much leisure can make everything seem tasteless and void of meaning. If people can maintain a balanced approach in their interactions and adjust their mental state, they can enjoy pleasures without indulgence, know sorrow without despair, and achieve not being swayed by external things for joy, nor by internal feelings for sorrow, truly understanding the beauty of balance and harmony. 28. Integrity comes first in social relations. When we meet someone new, our relationship usually begins with trust in that person's character. If someone can't make others trust their character, they might find it hard to achieve great things no matter how capable they are. There's a story about a large company looking to hire an accounting assistant. Many candidates were interviewed, but eventually it came down to 3 people who had similar qualifications. The HR specialist was unsure who to choose, so they asked the company owner for guidance. The owner asked the candidates one simple question: how would you help the company avoid paying 500,000 yuan in taxes? The first two candidates said they could create fake accounts. The owner nodded but didn't respond, telling them to wait for further notice. When it was the last candidate's turn, a woman, she paused and then quietly asked, "Do we really have to do this?" The owner nodded. The woman then excused herself and walked out of the interview. Surprisingly, the owner stood up, smiled at her and said, "Please wait. You are the most honest and principled of all the candidates. Congratulations, you've passed the interview." She later earned a promotion to a respected position as a chief accounting inspector. The ancient text, the Book of Rites, mentions, "Virtue leads to success." Character is the most effective way to test a person's heart and is the ultimate boundary in basic human interactions. There's also an interesting fable about God having a scale that measures the weight of a person's character. One day, a poor man with nothing on jumped on the scale and his character weighed more than the standard weight, earning high praise from God. Later, a wealthy man, worried about being too light, strapped a heavy gold belt around his waist before stepping on the scale. He was heavier than the standard weight, but God shook his head and said, "You are of lesser character." The wealthy man, angry, complained that the scale was unfair because he was laden with treasures while the poor man had nothing. God replied, "This scale doesn't measure wealth but character. Excluding your gold, your bones have almost no weight." The most valuable thing in life isn't how much money you have, but being a trustworthy and virtuous person. Good character is your best business card and the best feng shui for your life. 29. Respecting others is essentially respecting yourself. One day, there was a commotion at the entrance of a school. It turned out that a woman was yelling at the school's security guard. The woman had come to visit a friend who worked at the school and had asked the guard to open the gate for her, mentioning that she had given him a pass early that morning. However, following standard procedure, the guard asked her to register. The woman thought this was unnecessary and scolded the guard. "Aren't you just a guard? What right do you have to demand this from me?" The guard, slightly angry, responded, "This is a school. To keep the children safe, we must do this." Unexpectedly, the woman burst into tears, causing a scene for everyone to come and judge. She even threatened to complain about the guard to the principal's office. Fortunately, her friend arrived soon after and, being understanding, quickly apologized to the guard, which calmed the situation down. Onlookers felt that the woman was very disrespectful and created an embarrassing spectacle by not showing respect to others. Indeed, whether it's a doorman or a janitor, every job and every person deserves respect. Empathy, understanding, and tolerance for others are not easy, but they are fundamental virtues that everyone should cultivate. Living together, we reflect each other like mirrors. If you smile at someone, they will smile back. If you are polite to others, they will treat you with courtesy in return, and vice versa. Moral integrity can compensate for a lack of talent, but talent can never make up for a lack of moral integrity. Respecting others is truly respecting yourself. 30. Being thankful for life. As children, we were often taught by our parents and teachers to have a kind and good heart. They said the most respected people are those who maintain their goodness. There's a touching story about an American man named Aaron who was desperately looking for a job so his 2-year-old child wouldn't go hungry. One day, he finally got an interview and was really excited. He had prepared for a long time. On the morning of the interview, with just $2 in his pocket, he took a bus to the job interview. On the way, there was a traffic accident and the bus stopped, but No one else seemed ready to help. Aaron asked the driver to wait while he went to help the injured person, but the driver said, "The bus won't wait. I'll leave if you get off." After a moment of inner conflict, Aaron chose to get off the bus to help the injured person, missing his important interview. Fortunately, the injured person was quickly taken to the hospital and received timely treatment. Aaron said, "I missed that job opportunity because a job can be found again, but a human life is irreplaceable. All I could think about was saving that person." Luckily, because of his kindness, many media outlets reported on him. Afterwards, he received several job offers, including from a company that hired him without an interview. And his previously difficult life improved significantly with the help of kind-hearted people. Kindness is like a circle. If you are grateful and live kindly, one day all the good deeds you've done will be returned in various ways. As a writer once said in an article, sometimes kindness doesn't pay off immediately, but it will bring you surprises. Sometimes kindness comes back in different ways, letting you experience its vastness and richness. 31. Learning to be the foundation of character. No matter how much you learn, the most important lesson is learning to be a good person. This saying comes from the famous educator Dao Han Tree. In life, we must learn to be responsible for ourselves and to treat others with sincerity. We should learn to be forgiving, respect others, and understand things from their perspectives. We need to appreciate life, preserve our goodness, and be kind to everyone. Building a life on good character is essential because it not only defines who we are, but also plays a crucial role in our success or failure. Having good character is our greatest asset. 32. The ripple effect. Confucius had a student named Mo from the state of Dang. Mo was an average student but always considered himself the best. After studying for a few years, Mo wanted to return home, thinking he had learned everything from his teacher. Zigong, seeing this, asked, "Will there be any problems if he becomes an official back home?" Confucius shook his leg and replied, "No problems." Zigong then asked, "What if he becomes a general?" Confucius stroked his beard and answered, "That would be fine." Then Zigong asked further, "What if he turns to banditry?" Confucius yawned and responded, "It wouldn't harm anyone." Only then did Zigong relax and said casually, "I heard Mo is returning home just to teach." Upon hearing this, Confucius suddenly jumped up, so hurried that he didn't have time to tie his shoes or button his shirt, and rushed out the gate running breathlessly. His students followed, asking, "Where are you going, teacher?" Confucius, still running, replied, "To Dang right away." The students asked, "Why go to Dang?" Confucius continued, "To stop Mo from teaching. If he becomes an official, he might only harm a village. As a general, perhaps a city. Even as a bandit, he might not harm anyone. But if he teaches, he could cause damage for generations, and even I might not escape the consequences." 33. Setting boundaries in generosity, balancing help with principles. Help those in urgent need, not the lazy. Assist in emergencies, not just the poor. When people face immediate difficulties, lending them a hand helps them overcome obstacles and is a form of doing good. However, helping lazy or poor individuals without other considerations may lead to dependency, turning you into a bottomless pit, eventually draining you completely. A businessman, after becoming successful, built 258 houses for the needy and elderly in his hometown. Originally a charitable act, he expected gratitude, but the residents became demanding, asking for more houses and compensations. Their greed seemed endless, which upset the businessman to the point that he stopped visiting his hometown for the New Year festivities. Every return home brought endless demands and requests, so it's better I don't visit. The movie The Godfather has a line that says, "Unlimited kindness will only encourage others to take advantage. Kindness without principles leads to unreasonable demands." When kindness has no limits or principles, good intentions can lead to malice, making people take advantage of your generosity until they turn against you when you can no longer help. Therefore, it's essential to help those truly in need and in critical situations, not just the poor, and to know when and when not to extend charity. 34. Compassion with Wisdom, a Zen master's lesson on the true nature of goodness. Being good is a noble quality, but it's not the same as being foolish. Humans are born inherently good, and it's this goodness that fills the world with warmth and hope. However, goodness also requires wisdom and sharp reasoning. Blind goodness is merely foolishness. There was once a Zen master meditating by a river when he heard a noise, only to find a scorpion struggling in the water. He rescued the scorpion, but it stung him in return. Despite the pain, he set it down gently and continued his meditation. The scorpion fell into the water again, and once more the Zen master saved it, only to be stung again. This happened repeatedly. A fisherman watching nearby asked, "The scorpion keeps hurting you. Why do you keep saving it?" The Zen master replied, "Stinging others is its nature, and compassion is mine." Later, when the scorpion fell in again, the fisherman used a stick to help it out of the water, showing that the scorpion could climb out on its own. The fisherman advised, "Compassion is right, but start with compassion towards yourself. Protect yourself first, then others." Goodness is valuable, but it also needs to be tempered with wisdom. Human nature is complex and the world is dangerous. Naive goodness can be exploited by those with endless greed, leaving the compassionate ones hurt. This story illustrates the downside of blind goodness. Although life and human intentions are not always good, don't lose your inherent kindness. However, wise goodness does not mean calculating benefits in return. Give with a good heart, but also discern who truly deserves your kindness. 35. The Monkey and the Fatal Wound, a lesson in self-reliance. Only by being truly strong can you save yourself. There was a monkey whose belly got scraped by a tree branch, causing a lot of bleeding. It showed another monkey its wound and said, "Look how much this hurts me." Every monkey that saw the wound tried to comfort it and suggested different treatments. It kept showing its friends the wound to get their opinions, and eventually the wound became infected and the monkey died. An old monkey said that it had essentially caused its own death. In fact, sharing your troubles with others doesn't necessarily solve the problem. It's better to quietly endure and overcome them. When life gets tough, don't just tell everyone about your problems. Instead, face everything with a positive attitude and focus on changing your situation. That's what really matters. 36. Learn to rely on yourself. There's a bird that perches on a branch, never fearing that the branch will break, because it trusts not the branch but its own wings. Instead of worrying about the future, it's better to focus on improving the present. On the path to success, it is continuous effort that brings you security and the greatest achievements. As you grow, only you can provide the most reliable support for yourself. After all, relying on mountains may cause them to collapse, and relying on people may lead them to leave. Relying on yourself is the sturdiest option. 37. I'd rather be a fool. There were two patients who were both sick. One had very sharp hearing and overheard the doctors saying they only had 3 months to live. The other had poor hearing, so poor that he couldn't even hear what someone was saying directly to him. Strangely, not only did he survive the 3 months, but it's been 2 years now, and he's still doing well, while the one who heard everything passed away within those 3 months. In life, Sometimes it's better not to know everything. Being slow can be better than being quick, and being foolish can be better than being wise. This is the essence of the saying that people often mention, "I'd rather be a fool." In reality, life is foolish, and joy and happiness are hidden within that foolishness. 38. Taking good care of yourself is a blessing for future generations. A janitor once signed up for a healthcare plan, and someone asked her why she'd spend her small daily earnings on that. Her response was an eye-opener. 10 years ago, my father saved $3,500, but he spent it all on my grandfather's medical bills. A few years ago, I spent $8,700, which I had saved over many years, on my father's hospital expenses. It felt like my father and I were just working for the hospital. I don't want my children to end up doing the same. That's why I'm committed to keeping healthy before I get sick. Healthcare might be expensive, but it's not as costly as medical treatment. This truly shows a deep understanding. 39. Optimism is the greatest asset in life. Bale is known as the most optimistic person around. One day when a flood swept through, he sat on his roof singing cheerfully. A neighbor paddled by in a boat and shouted, "Bale, all your ducks were swept away." He replied, "No worries, they all can swim." "Your wheat field is completely flooded too," the neighbor added. "That's okay. The harvest wasn't going to be good this year anyway." "Oh no, the water is up to your windows." "No problem. I was planning to wash the windows anyway. This saves me the trouble." Sometimes having a bright and optimistic outlook is the greatest asset in life. When you face challenges with optimism, you'll find that difficulties and annoyances become minor, and everything seems as easy as flipping your hand. 40. The power of calm, mastering inner peace through letting go. To find inner peace like still water, one must learn to let go. A Zen master once said, "The key to a calm mind is the ability to disregard fame and material gain, and to discard emotional disturbances caused by relationships. Therefore, achieving this requires letting go." Indeed, in a world full of conflict, many people are restless and unsettled because they place too much emphasis on themselves. A calm mind can foster wisdom. Being as tranquil as still water is a sign of high intelligence. In the historical narrative, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, there's a story about Zhuge Liang's strategy at Nai Din when facing an overwhelming enemy. Despite having only 2,500 soldiers to defend the city, Zhuge Liang remained composed. He sat on the city's balcony, playing his zither calmly as the enemy approached. The enemy general, Sima Yi, intrigued by this serene scene, listened to Zhuge Liang's music for a while before ordering a retreat. Zhuge Liang's calm music had intimidated Sima Yi into withdrawing. This is akin to remaining unchanged even if Mount Tai collapses before one's eyes, or not being distracted by a deer dancing nearby. Such extraordinary composure is, of course, not something an ordinary person can easily achieve. 41. The power of words, how speaking kindly can shape our destiny. Practicing good speech is essentially building good fortune. There is an old saying, "Wounds from swords and knives can heal, but harsh words can be harder to forget." It's important to speak wisely, say what shouldn't be said, and carefully choose the words that should be said. People often say, "Good fortune enters through the mouth, and trouble exits from it." The mouth can quickly create karma, and in an instant, you could offend many people. On the journey of life, this can lead to more enemies and a narrower path. If you want a life of wealth and honor, start with wealthy and honorable speech. If a family desires good fortune, they should first cultivate good speech. When talking to others, being empathetic makes them feel good and they're more likely to agree and befriend you. A story goes like this. A black taxi driver was driving a white mother and her child. The child asked, "Why is the driver's skin color different from ours?" The mother smiled and said, "God wanted to fill the world with color, so he created people with different skin colors." Upon reaching their destination, the driver refused to accept payment. When I was a child, I asked my mother a similar question. She told me we are black because we are meant to be the lower class. If she had given me your answer today, I might have turned out differently, the driver remarked. Speaking kindly is creating good karma and fostering good relationships. Cultivating wealthy and honorable speech and speaking with compassion makes making friends easier and families more harmonious. As a result, wealth and good fortune will naturally follow. 42. 5 Taboos of Speaking That Wise People Avoid. In the book Strategies of Guiguzi teaches that when interacting with others, it's important to avoid the following 5 unproductive states. 1. Illness. Speaking lethargically and lacking spirit, not following through on tasks and having no ambition. 2. Resentment. Constant complaining, filled with negative energy, lacking personal opinions and not solving problems. 3. Anxiety. Overly sensitive and emotional, immersed in one's own world, leading to others feeling let down. 4. Anger. Emotions out of control, excessive reactions, and overly aggressive speech. 5. Overjoy. Arrogant and boastful, speaking in a condescending tone and choosing words carelessly, which can lead to jealousy and sadness. When someone constantly complains, expresses dissatisfaction, and carries negative energy, they drain their own good fortune. This results in lack of enthusiasm in their actions, a negative attitude, and ultimately, dissatisfaction with life. For a prosperous life and contentment, one must learn to be satisfied and cultivate the art of saying, "I am content." Just as dark clouds bring rain, reckless behavior brings disaster. People should avoid reckless and arrogant behavior, taking responsibility for their own fortunes and misfortunes. It's crucial to learn how to control one's emotions and avoid reckless statements in any situation. To lead a fortunate life, start by cultivating a disciplined way of speaking. 43. Speak sincerely and consider the perspective of others. People who lack the art of speaking can only bring trouble upon themselves through their words. However, if you cultivate your speech well, you will be blessed by fortune. According to the strategies of Ghost Valley, when talking to different people, various strategies apply. Speak with knowledgeable people based on broad understanding. Speak with the wealthy strongly and elegantly. Be humble and polite with those of lower status, touching their hearts, and encourage those who have made mistakes, boosting their confidence. As Ghost Valley once said, no one wants to be inferior to others. Effective communication isn't just about mirroring the words of others, but sincerely understanding and considering their position. Knowing the true thoughts and desires of others and speaking in ways that benefit them is crucial. Throughout history, the pinnacle of this art is exemplified by Ghost Valley, who pioneered persuasive speaking techniques that allowed his disciples to navigate the complexities of state politics. More than just oratory skills, it's about understanding the perspectives of others and starting from their interests. In interactions, value sincerity above all. Even the best rhetorical skills cannot touch people as deeply as genuine emotion. Sincere communication broadens and smooths the path of life. 44. The people you surround yourself with can shape your life. Being around hardworking people will keep you from being lazy. Staying close to positive people will uplift your spirits. If you associate with wise individuals, you won't remain ordinary. Befriending truly great people can lead you to the heights of success. Scientists believe that humans are the only creatures capable of being influenced by suggestions. Positive suggestions can have a good impact on a person's emotions and physical well-being, triggering their inner potential and enhancing their capabilities beyond the ordinary. This pushes you to be progressive and eagerly move forward. On the other hand, it's best to stay away from those with a negative influence. If not, they might unknowingly steal your dreams, leading you to become gradually disheartened and mediocre. Positive influencers are like the sun, bringing light wherever they go. Negative people are like the moon, inconsistent whether you meet them once or even after 10 years. 45. Your attitude determines everything. It shapes your future. Some people believe that there are three great fortunes in life: having a good teacher in school, working with competent colleagues and a good boss, and marrying a compatible partner. Sometimes, just a smile or a warm, caring question from them can brighten your life. The greatest misfortune in life is to lack a positive, visionary person by your side. Without that, your life can become dull and uninspiring. There's a saying, it doesn't matter who you are, it matters who you are with. There's an old story about Mencius' mother moving 3 times to find the best learning environment for her son, illustrating how important it is to be in the right company. An eagle raised in a chicken coop loses its nature to soar high. Similarly, a wolf growing up among goats loses its wild instincts. Even if you are highly talented, being around negatively influential people can diminish your motivation and make you mediocre. If you want to soar like an eagle, fly with eagles, not with caged birds. If you want to roam freely like a wolf, walk with wolves, not with goats. 46. Surround yourself with excellence, the power of influential company. To become smart, surround yourself with smart people. If you think you are smart, stick with smart people to become even sharper. If you believe you are exceptional, stay close to those who are exceptional to truly stand out. There's a saying, birds of a feather flock together, and it explains why entire dormitories can pass graduate exams and classes can achieve high success. Being around great people leads to great results. Having access to good books and associating with wise people are 2 of the biggest fortunes in life. The value of a person is largely determined by their friends. The more outstanding your friends, the higher your value and the greater the support for your career. Friends are a lifelong treasure because they support and encourage you, helping you to continually succeed and move forward. The magic of life is having someone by your side. The beauty of life is when you give someone roses. The scent lingers on your hands. Life is just like this. To be near smart people, you must be smart. To be near exceptional people, you need to be exceptional. If you can't be with such people, your life, love, marriage, family, and career may not flourish. 47. Never justify yourself. During the Eastern Jin dynasty, Cao Fong served in the auditor's office in Zhenzhou and was a judge under Truong Tong. At that time, a military school student named Don Hong Tien stole wood from the government to make household items. When Truong Tong found out, he was extremely angry and wanted to kill him. In an attempt to save his own life, Don Hong Tien falsely claimed, "Cao Fong told me to do it." Truong Tong asked Cao Fong to verify this statement, and unexpectedly, Cao Fong admitted it was his doing, which spared Don Hong Tien from execution. Truong Tong then gave Cao Fong a large sum of money and a horse, and dismissed him. Cao Fong quietly left without defending himself against the false accusation. Later, Truong Tong had to call Cao Fong back. Over a year later, a close associate of Truong Tong mentioned that Chow Fong had confessed to save a life. Truong Tong was amazed and treated Chow Fong with great respect thereafter. 48. Finding gold but not claiming it. Giving money to others is not a difficult thing to do, but being kind to someone who is harming your property is a level of generosity not everyone can achieve. When Zhang Ziang was studying at Tai Hak, his family sent him 10 ounces of gold through a messenger. Unfortunately, his roommate stole the gold from his luggage while Zhang was away. The school authorities called the roommate for a search. When the gold was found, Zhang Ziang said, "This is not my student's gold." The thieving roommate, taking advantage of the night, returned the gold by hiding it in Zhang's coat pocket. Knowing his roommate was facing hard times, Zhang generously gave half of the gold to him. Elders say that while anyone can give gold to others, finding your gold and refusing to claim it back, especially in urgent situations, is something very few can do. 49. Helping a thief turn over a new leaf. Wu Leng Yi from Taozhou was originally a city dweller known for his integrity, never harming others for personal gain. In his later years, he enjoyed a relatively prosperous life. One night, someone tried to steal from his home. His sons caught the thief, who turned out to be a neighbor's son. Wu Leng Yi asked the thief, "You've never done wrong before. Why resort to stealing now?" The man replied, "It's only out of extreme poverty that I had to do this." Wu Leng Yi then asked what he needed, and the thief said, 10,000 coins would be enough for food, drink, and clothes. Wu Leng Yi gave him exactly that amount. As the thief was leaving, Wu Leng Yi called him back, causing the thief to fear he had changed his mind about helping. However, Wu Leng Yi said, "Carrying 10,000 coins at night might get you questioned by the night patrol." He let the thief stay until morning before sending him off. Ashamed, the thief eventually reformed. Neighbors praised Wu Leng Yi as a great benefactor. He also founded a school, hiring famous teachers to educate promising children. Wu Leng Yi's son and grandson both achieved doctoral degrees and brought honor to their family in southern Taozhou. This was the blessing Wu Leng Yi received for his good deeds. 50. Providing a servant a livelihood. Truong Te was a renowned general during the Northern Song dynasty, initially serving as a minor official before being promoted to oversee transportation in the Jiangnan region. One day, during a dinner party at his home, he noticed a servant stealthily pocketing a few silver items but chose not to confront him. Later in life, when Te became a high-ranking official, many of his servants advanced to official positions, except for the one who had stolen. During a quiet moment, this servant knelt before Te and tearfully asked why he had been forgotten, given that he had served the longest. Te responded that he had kept silent about the servant's theft for nearly 30 years, even though it disqualified him from promotion. Acknowledging the servant's long service, Te gave him a substantial sum of money, suggesting he find a peaceful place to live since the truth had now been revealed and staying would be shameful. The ancients said, "Giving way to others makes your own path broader and more open." Historically, those who knew when to yield and step back, avoiding conflicts, often gained more than they lost. Yielding does not signify defeat or weakness. It is a sign of respect, understanding, and wisdom. Those who can let go at the right time, paving the way for others, do not lose but win the hearts of people. 51. Lessons on arrogance in Eastern and Western cultures. Arrogant individuals often rely on their perceived superiority, either material or spiritual, to place themselves above others, sometimes without realizing it. However, when arrogance grows, it can become dangerous. In ancient times, during the spring and autumn period, the state of Qi experienced a severe famine that killed many. A wealthy man named Qian Zhao, moved by compassion, decided to cook and distribute rice to the poor. As days passed, people from various places came to receive Qian Zhao's rice, thanking and praising his generosity. Over time, this praise led Qian Zhao to become conceited, developing a sense of superiority and looking down on others. One day, he saw a man weakened from hunger and disdainfully offered him food, saying, "You there, come and eat." Unexpectedly, the man glared back at Qian Zhao and proudly refused, stating he would rather suffer than accept charity from someone so demeaning. The man soon died of hunger, leaving Qian Zhao with deep regret. He realized that although his intentions were good, his arrogance had inadvertently hurt the man's dignity, turning a good deed into a harmful one. Arrogance not only spoils good intentions, but is also a fundamental reason for failure. It is said, "Know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated." Arrogant people center themselves and underestimate others, including their adversaries. Historical figures like King Xiang of Zhou and General Guan Yu lost their realms due to their inability to see their own flaws and strengths realistically. Arrogance can also lead to dangerous biases, causing people to believe only in their own experiences and perceptions, rejecting anything that contradicts their narrow worldview. Such biases, while reinforcing one's sense of intellectual superiority, are similar to a frog in a well, oblivious to the broader world. Both Christianity and Buddhism view arrogance as a root cause of many sins. Christianity identifies 7 deadly sins, with pride or arrogance at the forefront. Similarly, Buddhism teaches that arrogance is one of the major obstacles in spiritual practice. These religions emphasize that arrogance is the origin of many vices and failures. In conclusion, the Tao Te Ching teaches that the highest goodness is like water. Water benefits all things without competing with them. Similarly, truly virtuous people are like water, embracing and tolerating everyone. As water collects streams from low places to become the sea, humble individuals gain respect by treating others kindly and placing themselves last. Only by shedding personal biases can one truly understand the world, perceive the true nature of things, and achieve a profound level of wisdom and undefeated spirit. 52. The miracle. After 100 acts of patience, everything that people do is recorded and surely paid back with either good or bad consequences. The following story reminds us that enduring anything with patience can lead to everlasting happiness. During the Tang Dynasty, there was a man named Zhang Gongxi. Throughout his life, he could endure things that ordinary people could not. He vowed to perform 100 extraordinary acts of tolerance in his lifetime, and he upheld this vow daily. Hence, he was known as Zhang Banian, meaning 100 acts of patience. Zhang never argued with others when working with them. He was strict with himself but generous towards others. Over many years, he endured a total of 99 acts of tolerance, and he was just 1 act away from fulfilling his promise. One day, during his grandson's wedding, Zhang invited many friends to the celebration. They prepared a lavish feast for the guests. As it approached noon, a beggar came by. Zhang said, "Do not trouble him. Give him some food and let him leave after he's finished eating." The servant reported that the beggar wanted to sit with all the guests. Zhang found this request unusual but agreed. Wearing a dirty and smelly monk's robe, the beggar entered the room, approached Zhang and said, "Thank you for your generosity. Today is your grandson's wedding, and I specifically came to congratulate him. However, I have another request, to dine with the most honored guests." Zhang hesitated slightly but agreed. He introduced the beggar to the wedding officiant and then told everyone, "Ladies and gentlemen, today is my grandson's wedding. I am grateful to all the distinguished guests who have come. This elderly man has just arrived and wishes to dine with us. Please be kind and make room for him at the table." At that moment, the beggar said, "No, not with the ordinary guests, but with the most honored ones." Zhang replied, "Why do you insist on sitting at the place of honor? The seat I arranged for you is also for important guests." Upon hearing this, the beggar replied, "Are you not a noble-hearted person? How can you discriminate between people like this? Well-dressed people don't necessarily have good characters, and those in rags aren't necessarily low in character. Why don't you think before acting so hastily?" What the beggar said truly touched Zhang's heart. He thought, "I vowed to endure 100 unbearable things. Why should I let such a small matter trouble me?" Therefore, he immediately apologized to the beggar and then turned to all the guests, saying, "Please, for me, allow this old man to sit in the place of honor and do not worry about any inappropriate thing he might say." Everyone at the wedding agreed to let the beggar sit in the place of honor. After the feast ended and all the guests had left, the old beggar was still sitting there without any sign of leaving. Zhang approached him and asked, "Old man, I think you've had enough to eat and it's getting dark. How about staying here tonight? You can sleep in the kitchen with the chef. How does that sound?" The old man replied, "No, that won't do. Even though I'm a beggar, you shouldn't make me sleep in the kitchen. You need to find a decent place for me to sleep." Zhang answered, "All right, you can sleep in our living room." But the beggar said, "No, I will not sleep in the living room. I think the bride's room is the most comfortable in your house, so I will sleep there. Please ask your grandson to sleep somewhere else." This statement shocked everyone, and Zhang was nearly at his breaking point. He said, "Old man, I respect you for your age, and I've tried my best to accommodate your requests, but I can't understand why you would make such an indecent request." The beggar replied, "I will only sleep there and do nothing else. Why are you so cautious? I must say that you don't deserve the name Zhang Banian. You should change your name to Zhang Unpatient." Hearing this, Zhang didn't know what to do. After a moment, he told the beggar, "All right, I will let you sleep in the bride's room, but I must ask the bride and groom first." Zhang discussed with his family. The grandson said, "No, this is an insult. Absolutely not." Other family members agreed that the beggar's request was excessive. What would happen if this news got out? Our honor would be ruined. Zhang tried to persuade everyone. He might not be a typical beggar and he is quite old. I don't think he will do anything improper to the bride. Moreover, he swore that he would just sleep in the bride's room and we can arrange a guard to stand outside. If there is any disturbance in the room, the bride just needs to shout and we will all rush in to help. After hearing this, the bride thought what her grandfather said made sense. He has been so generous throughout his life that everyone respects him for his noble heart, and he is also very fair in disciplining the family members. We, the younger ones, should inherit these virtues from him. We should agree to his request so he can complete his 100th act of patience. Eventually, the family reached an agreement. Zhang went to the living room, invited the beggar to the bride's room to rest, and the beggar smiled and followed him. As soon as he lay down, he fell asleep instantly. The room was completely quiet all night. In the early morning, Zhang and others stood outside the bride's room waiting for the beggar. The bride was also waiting inside. She opened the door and said to them, "I was so scared last night. I didn't sleep at all and sat on the bed all night." Fortunately, the old beggar did not even turn over in his sleep. They looked at the bed and saw the old beggar still sleeping soundly. Zhang called him several times, but the old man did not respond. Zhang reached out and pulled back the blanket, but to his surprise, there was no beggar there. Instead, there was a shining golden statue as big as a man. Upon closer inspection, he saw that it looked like Tai Bai Jin Xing and resembled the statue that was worshipped in the local temple. Also, two lines were engraved on the body of the statue, which read, "Work diligently, and you will not have to worry in life. Always maintain harmony in the palace of 100 acts of patience." Finally, Zhang realized that the old beggar was Tai Bai Jin Xing, who came to test him. Soon after, the news about the incident spread throughout the province and beyond. Everyone admired Zhang Bainian and also felt the greatness of divine compassion. They understood that whatever people do in the world is recorded and surely paid back with either good or bad consequences. Zhang Bainian was even more respected by everyone, and his story reminded future generations that enduring anything that seems unbearable can lead to everlasting happiness. 53. People with vision and breadth of mind naturally possess great character. It's okay not to be highly intelligent or emotionally skilled, but one must have a strong character. To put it plainly, you might not be smart or good at socializing, but you must exhibit great character. If minor obstacles deter you, or a few harsh words trouble you, or if you suddenly start hating or resenting others for no reason, then your character is petty. The greater your character, the more success you will likely achieve. A saying from the Qing dynasty by Lam Tak Tu goes, "The sea becomes vast because it accepts thousands of rivers, and the towering mountain remains upright because it is free of desire." Great character isn't innate but is gradually developed through self-cultivation, representing a strong and substantial moral fiber. Great character makes a person's actions exude the elegance of an orchid, the steadfast integrity of bamboo, and the resilience of a plum blossom enduring the harsh winter. Feng Monglong wrote in Tong Guangji Nang Bo, "Being tolerant and forgiving towards lesser men is the mark of a true gentleman." Great character gives a person a calm and stable demeanor, and an adept and natural way of interacting with others. People with great character are not without desires. They see through life's complexities, understand how to deal with people, know when to advance or retreat, understand others' hearts, and know how to accumulate good fortune by helping themselves and others. Even in the face of immense sadness, they still manage a smile, not letting it affect their inner energy, always maintaining a fresh spirit that nourishes and refreshes their soul. 54. Practice humility and keep the peace without competing. Hong Ying-ming from the Ming Dynasty once said, "One who maintains harmony will naturally receive countless blessings." Managing tasks harmoniously and maintaining peaceful relationships are essential. It's best not to waste time on pointless debates. By keeping calm and reducing anger, you will win people's hearts, and your relationships will improve. This makes everything more manageable and leads to success. Mencius stated, "The right moment is not as crucial as the right place, and the right place is not as important as harmony among people." Harmony embodies a spirit of tolerance, cooperation, and teamwork in a congenial atmosphere. Harmony is both an outward expression and an inner cultivation. Only those who live in harmony can communicate effectively with others, collaborate well, and succeed in their endeavors. A harmonious person is virtuous enough to uplift everything around them. Just a good moral character can lead to success in any endeavor. Those who live in harmony are generous in forgiving others, willing to let others take credit, and quick to accept their own faults. Having a heart that can forgive failures and focus on the path to success leads to understanding and fair treatment of others. A harmonious person is enthusiastic but not superficial, genuine but not insincere, and freely gives to others from the heart without holding back or showing off. They do not use others for personal gain and always believe that a noble heart remains calm, while a petty heart never rests. They uphold integrity and simplicity in their interactions. 55. Facing challenges and enduring hardships to nurture determination. People who lack a clear purpose will not succeed. With determination, everything can be achieved. Confucius said, "An army can lose its general, but a man must not lose his direction." Having a definite goal and pursuing it is what determination means. The beat of a drum that fires up the spirit, and continuing without stopping is what we call spirit. Combined, these form the determination and spirit. Without strong determination and spirit, one cannot reach the peak of intellectual achievement. All success in life is determined by this. When someone faces difficulties or humiliations, yet their purpose remains unchanged and they persevere, it is possible to see their true spirit. Those who can endure hardships to fulfill their responsibilities will ultimately achieve great success. The historian Sima Qian endured extreme hardships and humiliation to build his legacy, leaving behind the famous historical record, Records of the Grand Historian. His embodiment of endurance elevated this virtue to its highest level. The distress and humiliation endured, and the challenges of perseverance laid the foundation for the creation of the great Records of the Grand Historian. 56. Cultivating a scholarly demeanor, the lifelong journey of learning and growth. When you read in your spare time, you naturally exude what's called a scholarly demeanor. This is a refined way of carrying oneself, reflecting a good inner quality. It's as if the clean air from the scent of books radiates around you, which can refine your thoughts and actions. If you possess a scholarly demeanor, the brightness of your face reflects your love for books. Your study room becomes a crucial place for cultivating this air of scholarship. In this room, books are your companions. They are your friends. Immersed in a sea of books and engaging with knowledgeable people enriches your understanding. Hence, the study room is key to developing a scholarly demeanor. Ancient wisdom says that effort is needed not just inside, but outside the study room as well. To cultivate a scholarly demeanor, you should also explore the world, keeping company with wise people and immersing yourself in nature. The rich, practical experiences of social life are like a big book, enhancing the scholarly air when you step out of the study room and embrace the spirit of the land and sky. Tang Quoc Phien once said, "A person's character is innate and hard to change, but reading books can transform it." For a person to maintain their fine qualities consistently, they must nurture their scholarly demeanor continually, allowing it to fill their heart and spread throughout their space, never ceasing to inspire. The scholarly demeanor also builds up gradually and only shows itself over time, and it requires ongoing cultivation, not just for a day or two, but throughout one's life. 57. Don't sacrifice your integrity for small gains. In life, you may lose everything but never lose your integrity. The story below is a profound lesson for anyone considering compromising themselves. In a southern town, there was a fish stall in the market where buyers often lined up. Business was booming because the fish were famously fresh, and the owner planned to expand. The stall owner, a man over 50, casually shared a story during a conversation. About 5 years ago, a young boy around 7 or 8 years old came to the market to buy vegetables and stopped at his stall. "Sir, can I buy 2 butterfly fish?" he asked. The owner looked at the boy and scooped up 2 fish to weigh. The boy fumbled in his pocket and eventually pulled out a 100 dong note. Is this a New Year's gift you're hesitant to spend? The owner joked. The boy blushed. 36 dongs. The owner handed back 64 dongs in change, and the boy quickly took the fish and left. Unexpectedly, the boy returned the next day. My mom went to the hospital today. The owner was startled. She's sick and had surgery today. Yesterday, I bought her favorite butterfly fish because I was afraid she might never get to eat it again. But after eating, she told me, it's not worth losing your integrity for a little gain. Ashamed, the boy pulled a crisp 100 dong note from his pocket and respectfully handed it to the owner. Sir, I'm sorry. The money I used yesterday was counterfeit. This one is real. The owner was surprised, not expecting such an outcome. He remembered the previous day, never suspecting the honest-looking boy could use counterfeit money. I thank you, sir. My mom had received this counterfeit money long ago and always kept it. She was sick and had used up all her savings. Wanting to save her 100 dongs, I secretly took this fake money to buy the fish. Thank you for not blaming me. The stall owner felt like something had broken inside him, a feeling hard to describe. He took out the counterfeit note from a drawer and returned it to the boy, who bowed and left. Watching the boy's disappearing figure, the owner was deeply moved. Later, when no one was around, he threw away several fish treated with formaldehyde that had been under his stall for over a week. Eventually, the boy's mother passed away due to her illness, and the boy returned to his hometown to continue his studies. The owner never saw the boy again, but he often thought of the boy and his unseen mother, their story touching his heart. The mother's wisdom not only guided her son back to the right moral path and shaped him into a good person, but it also transformed others. Truly, she was a great mother. 58. Unseen Beauty, Joshua Bell's Subway Performance and the Art of Noticing. What have we truly missed in our lives? Each opportunity, as small as it may seem, like hearing a beautiful note of music, is a gift from above. More importantly, we need keen awareness to recognize and cherish these precious moments. On a cold winter morning at a Washington, D.C. subway station, a man took out a violin and began to play. He performed 6 pieces by Bach, with a worn-out hat placed in front of him on the ground. To the hurried passers-by, he might have seemed just another anonymous street performer. After 3 minutes, a middle-aged man slowly approached, listened for a few seconds, and hurried away. 4 minutes later, the musician received his first bit of money when a woman tossed a few dollars into his hat without stopping. 6 minutes after that, a young man leaned against a wall to listen, checked his watch, and then moved on. 10 minutes later, a 3-year-old boy stopped, intrigued by the violin, but his mother pulled him away despite his reluctance to leave, turning back to look as he was led away. Other children, too, were hurried along by their parents. After 45 minutes, of the 1,097 people who passed by, only 6 stopped to listen briefly, and 20 gave money before moving on. Unbeknownst to the crowd, the violinist at the subway station was Joshua Bell, one of the world's greatest musicians, playing a violin worth $3.5 million. Just 2 days earlier, Bell had sold out a theater in Boston, where people paid around $200 each to hear him play. This subway performance was part of a social experiment by the Washington Post to explore public taste and perception. The experiment concluded that even with the world's best musician using the finest instrument, we often fail to pause for beauty, suggesting we miss many meaningful experiences in our fast-paced lives. This raises the question, what else might we be overlooking? 59. Are you okay? In human interactions, a single sentence can make someone feel warm and comfortable, or it might lead to lifelong resentment. As a teacher committed to education, I often advise my students' parents that if their child accidentally breaks a dish or damages something, the first thing they should ask is, "Are you okay?" It's crucial to show more concern for the well-being of children than for objects. After all, a broken dish can be replaced, but harsh words or punishment can cause lasting emotional damage, like broken glass that can never fully be mended. Before 1990, Taiwan's education curriculum included lessons on personal development and moral integrity, often using stories from Liu Kuan, a Han Dynasty official, as teaching materials. One story tells of Liu Kuan, neatly dressed and about to attend court, when a servant accidentally spills soup on his robe. Contrary to the servant's fears of punishment, Liu Kuan calmly asks, "Did the soup burn you?" This exemplifies his forgiving and caring nature, underscoring that caring for others is a primary life lesson. On another occasion, Liu Kuan was accused by a man of owning his lost ox. Without a word, Liu stepped down from his cart, handed over the ox, and walked home. When the man found his own ox and returned Liu's with an apology, Liu helped him up, saying, "Oxen generally look alike, and mistakes happen. You've returned it, which is commendable, so no need for apologies." Liu truly epitomizes virtue, deserving respect. I remember in early 1980, during my first teaching job in a table tennis class, one student accidentally hit me with a paddle, breaking my glasses. Seeing the student's pale face, frozen in shock, I reassured him, "It's okay, don't be scared," and continued the lesson. Reflecting on this, I was surprised by my own calmness, influenced, no doubt, by the historical accounts of Liu Kuan. As teachers, imparting moral lessons not only teaches students but also deeply ingrains these values in ourselves, helping us manage our emotions. This is truly beneficial. Friends should prioritize each other over money, and parents should love their children more than they mourn damaged objects. This is the essence of humanism and a guiding principle for life. 60. Doing good for its own sake. A little boy's lesson on true happiness. After the rain, a little boy found a small snail on the side of the road. He sat down, picked it up gently, and placed it in the grass. "Don't run around," his grandmother called out to him. The boy looked up with his chubby face, excitedly saying, "I'm rescuing the snail. It was in the middle of the road. It was very dangerous, so I'm taking it home." His grandmother was puzzled. "Does the snail know you saved it?" The boy replied, "It probably doesn't know." His grandmother said, "Then you're doing a good deed without getting anything in return. Who will know you saved the snail?" The boy quickly responded, "I know, and that's enough. I saved a snail, and it makes me happy." The simple statement of the child hides a deep philosophical meaning about human life. We do good deeds not for others to notice, and sometimes not even for the beneficiary to know. Knowing within ourselves is enough, because doing good helps us feel our existence and validates our belief in being good people, which meets our expectations and thus allows us to continue doing good. Just because of this, we feel happy. This is the greatest significance of doing good deeds, and it is the original wish of each of us. Unfortunately, most people today often carry too much pragmatism and self-interest, which distorts their actions. When we help someone else, we expect them to be thankful and hope to be rewarded, even if just with a thank you. Or we hope others know about it to gain recognition and praise. If we don't achieve these things, many of us might not be willing to do good deeds. Indeed, letting others know we did good is understandable, but knowing ourselves that we did good is what truly matters. Because ultimately, we live to see ourselves, not for others to see. No matter how much others praise and repay us, it is ultimately up to our own inner self to affirm who we are. The happiest person is one who is truly satisfied with themselves. Otherwise, even if the whole world praises you, but deep inside you feel you have done many bad things and don't deserve the praise, you will still not find peace and happiness. Many philosophers believe that this world is full of illusions, and what is in our hearts is what is truly real. This indeed is a profound hidden truth. 61. Redemption. After 40 years, a tale of conscience and closure. There's a story about a woman named Thai who, 40 years ago in elementary school, stole a coin from a friend because she was so hungry she wanted to buy a snack. When her friend noticed the money was missing, she was upset and searched for it. This incident has always stayed with Mrs. T. She could never forget it. 40 years later, after much effort, Mrs. T finally found that friend. She went to her with $10,000, insisting, "You must take this. I've always felt tortured by my mistake." In fact, her friend had long forgotten about the stolen coin and wouldn't have remembered if Mrs. Tai hadn't brought it up. But Mrs. Tai couldn't forget, and her conscience was always troubled, almost feeling tormented. So she was determined to find her friend, repay her with this money, and ask for forgiveness to feel relief and peace of mind. Many people might have similar experiences, owing someone for various reasons. Perhaps the other party doesn't know, and no one else can, nor do they blame you, but you can't forget and can't forgive yourself. It is often said, you can't go against your conscience. That's because a guilty conscience can be as distressing as being openly reprimanded. Therefore, Mrs. T was willing to pay $10,000 to make up for a debt of just one coin from her past. 62. The impact of obsessions. There are times when people make mistakes but don't feel guilty about them. However, these mistakes can still indirectly affect their world. Once I was having a meal with a friend who is a chef. He noticed something black in his food and immediately became cautious. After a closer look, it turned out to be just a burnt piece of onion, but he refused to eat his meal after that. He openly said, "I believe that many restaurants nowadays cheat and serve dirty food, so I usually avoid eating out due to my obsessions." Because he himself is not careful with cleanliness while cooking, he assumes others are the same. Therefore, a single burnt onion can ruin his entire appetite for food. In reality, if it weren't for that burnt piece, he wouldn't be able to enjoy meals like we do. This scenario is not unique. Your actions influence how you view the world. If you engage in shady activities, even if nobody finds out and your conscience doesn't bother you, you will start to distrust the world around you and your inner peace will be disrupted. We choose to do good and avoid bad actions, not just because good deeds are praised or bad ones are punished by society. More importantly, what we do directly affects us. The greatest reward for doing good is a joyful and content spirit, while the worst punishment for wrongdoing is a tormented conscience and internal unrest. 63. It's all part of life. In life, gaining something often means losing something else. Generally, the more you gain, the more you risk losing. Many people dream of winning the lottery, but life after a lottery win doesn't always meet expectations. A social study tracks several lottery winners for 10 years. These winners, typically from working-class backgrounds, thought that the money would improve their lives. However, after receiving large sums, their lives tended to decline due to reckless spending, relatives borrowing money, divorces, moving houses, and more, because they couldn't manage their finances effectively. Everything in life has its ups and downs. Therefore, a truly wise person understands that there is no real joy in gaining nor sorrow in losing. In any situation, one can adopt the mindset of it's all part of life, remaining undisturbed by the fluctuations of fortune. 64. Happiness in knowing. When enough is enough. In Thai Kandam, it is said, Those who are greedy lament not obtaining jewels while possessing gold, and resent not being dukes while already counts. This means that human desires are unlimited, but our hearts have limits. People who have gold still desire jewels, and those who are counts dream of being dukes. Eventually, those who pursue more than they can handle or deserve will likely bring about their own downfall. During the Ming Dynasty, King Ning of Jiangxi, Chu Shan Hao, was a descendant of royalty and lived a life of luxury. However, he was not content with just being a king. He aspired to become the emperor. Unfortunately, his rebellion lasted only 43 days before being suppressed by Governor Nam Kam and his generals. In the end, King Ning was captured and executed. Nahiem Tung, 1480 to 1567, listed in the Ming Dynasty records as one of the 6 greatest traders of his time, and his son, Nahiem the Fien, wielded their power to turn the world upside down for 20 years, earning widespread resentment. Nunghiem the Fien, extremely arrogant and delusional, once boasted loudly that no one in the court was wealthier than his family. Emperor the Tong, long displeased with Nunghiem Tung and his son, eventually found reasons to dismiss him from office. Nahiem Tung's family and associates were exiled. On the way to exile, Nahiem the Fien fled back home and became a bandit, only to be caught and executed by the government. After their properties were confiscated, Nahiem Tung had no home to return to and lived despised by all. 2 years later, he died from illness, and when he passed away, he was buried without a coffin, and no one came to mourn him. There's a saying, you can only sleep in a space no larger than 2 meters in a mansion of 1,000 rooms, and you can only eat 3 meals a day on a farm of 10,000 plots. So why do people never feel they have enough and exhaust themselves chasing after more? After all, no matter how much wealth or high rank one accumulates, it all becomes meaningless at life's end. 65. It's hard to play the fool. It's hard to play the fool is a famous saying by Trin Ban Qiu, a Qing dynasty scholar and artist. He once commented on this phrase, explaining, "It's hard to be smart, it's hard to be foolish, and it's even harder to turn from smart to foolish. If you let go and step back, your mind will find peace without expecting any reward in the future." Some say, in life there are 2 things, being alert in work and foolish in conduct. Being foolish is both a state of mind and a practice. In Confucius's eyes, this foolishness is moderation. For the elderly, it is effortlessness. And according to Zhuangzi, it is carefreeness. Often, it's better not to know too much, not to be too cunning, nor too understanding. Indeed, life itself is foolishness, where joy and happiness are hidden. Once awakened, all that joy and happiness dissolve into nothingness. In our time on earth, sometimes all we need is to live a bit foolishly, squinting through life, thus forgiving ourselves and others. Those who are always calculating tend to lead less joyful lives. Being foolish with friends brings lasting relationships without ulterior motives. With a partner, it allows freedom for both. With money and benefits, it brings no pain or anger. With human emotions, it keeps the conscience clear. And with baseless rumors, it spares our ears. Life should be crossed with foolishness, lived with joy, and contentment often brings happiness. 66. Understanding life. Life is a journey for us all. We begin this journey by crying at birth, announcing our arrival, while those around us smile in joy and celebration. As we grow, we find ourselves laughing through tears and crying through laughter. Some laugh more than they cry, filling their lives with light. Others cry more than they laugh, leading to a gloomier existence. Everyone has a life, but not everyone understands its meaning. It all depends on how you choose to portray it. We should be grateful to the heavens for what we have and also for what we don't have. Living another day is a blessing. Sometimes we cry because we have no shoes, only to realize there are many who have no feet. Always face life with gratitude in your heart, and you will find it more fulfilling and beautiful. Buddha said, "Arriving is random, departing is certain. Remain unchanged by chance, and adapt as necessary." Cherish life, treat it well, and depict it truly. By doing so, when you leave this world, you'll maintain a smile on your face because you've enriched your life through your efforts. Even if those around you are crying, isn't that also a profound appreciation of the life you lived? 67. Insights on life. There's a saying that goes, "The truth of life is actually hidden in the simple, everyday things." People live their lives often feeling exhausted, facing inevitable ups and downs and suffering. Because we are only human, we experience the bitterness, spiciness, sourness, and sweetness of everyday life. And naturally, we also face the usual worries and sadness. Whether it's bitter or sweet, things in life often don't go as we wish. Who can insist on changing that? Learning to look at problems from a different angle, changing our mindset, giving a little more, demanding a little less, and being a bit more composed might make life somewhat more comfortable. Buddha said, "If a person cannot feel suffering, they will not easily empathize with others. To learn to relieve suffering and help in disasters, one must first endure suffering themselves." Life is essentially a tough and challenging journey, a form of spiritual training. Having the courage to face reality allows us to overcome it, rising from our falls, smiling through tears, experiencing happiness through pain, and finding joy in misfortune, teaches us to calmly accept and reflect. Your life might just reveal more of its excellence through these experiences. 68. Insights on love. Life is essentially a journey to find love, where everyone hopes to find four key people. Firstly, yourself. Secondly, the person you love the most. Thirdly, the person who loves you the most. And finally, the person you live with for the rest of your life. Loving and being loved is a feeling that accompanies us on the path of life. It's hard to say clearly about fate and debts. Some have fate without debt, and others have debt but lack fate. No one can escape the entanglements of worldly life, hence the existence of romantic troubles and the mixture of joy and sorrow. When fate arrives, we must learn to cherish it, and when it departs, we must learn to let go. Only by doing so can we change our lives and give ourselves more opportunities to choose. Don't let tears cloud your vision, nor let hatred burn your heart. In one's life, at least once, you must forget yourself for someone else, without expecting anything in return, not even their love, only hoping that in the best moment of their life, you will have met them. Whether in a past life or in this one, if you've loved, then have no regrets, so that one day when you and your loved one meet again, you can simply say, "Oh, you're here too." 69. Dining and personal development. Story 1. Zhao Ming was invited to a job interview at a big company. Throughout the interview, he was exceptionally outstanding and was even invited by the CEO to a dinner party. At the dinner, he felt his behavior was impeccable. However, someone else was hired for the job. Xiao Ming was furious, thinking something underhanded must have occurred. Eventually, the hiring department explained that although he was very talented, the manager didn't hire him because he never expressed gratitude to the service staff during the dinner, which was also a part of the interview process. Story 2. On the eve of the Lunar New Year, Mai's parents traveled to Beijing to celebrate with their daughter and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend quickly arranged a dinner at a familiar restaurant. During the dinner, he tried hard to impress. However, Mai Mai's parents later expressed dissatisfaction, citing three reasons. First, he made the dinner reservations without consulting Mai Mai or considering her elderly parents' preferences. Second, during the busy dinner service, he repeatedly rushed the staff, showing impatience and poor manners. Third, during the dinner, he talked on his phone for over 10 minutes without excusing himself from the table, which made her parents feel uncomfortable. After hearing her parents' remarks, Mai Mai reevaluated the situation. Story 3. How a man treats service staff before marriage is likely how he will treat his wife afterward. This might sound extreme, but whether it's a business lunch or a family dinner, how you treat the service staff reflects not only your manners but also your emotional life. A psychologist once wrote, "Constant criticism and harsh demands can slow down service. Someone with a rich emotional life might say, 'Miss, you look lovely and are so efficient. Surely you can bring our dishes out soon, right? Thank you so much.'" Story 4. The way you handle situations can bring ease and comfort to others. It's important to consider others' feelings to ensure everyone enjoys their meal. This includes selecting dishes that cater to everyone's tastes and arranging comfortable seating. A teacher of etiquette once said her mother taught her that when hosting a meal, one must tactfully sync with the guest's eating pace. If guests are still enjoying their meal, the host should not put down their chopsticks first, as it may make the guests feel obliged to stop eating as well. Being thoughtful and meticulous in these details can bring good fortune. 70. Old Man Sai loses his horse. Near the border, there was an old man who owned horses. One day, his prized horse ran north and did not return. His neighbors came over to offer their condolences, but the old man calmly said, "Losing my horse might actually be a stroke of luck." A few days later, the horse unexpectedly returned and brought several fine horses with it, leaving everyone astonished. People came to congratulate the old man, saying, "It's true that a misfortune may hide a blessing. Not only did you not lose your horse, but you also gained some more." Everyone thought the old man would be thrilled, but he simply responded, "Gaining more horses might actually bring misfortune." The neighbors were puzzled but didn't ask further questions and went home. The old man's son, attracted by the beauty of the new horses, decided to try riding them but unfortunately fell and broke his leg. When people heard the news, they rushed to offer their sympathy. As before, the old man remained unbothered and simply said, "This might actually turn out to be a good thing." Later, the government required all able-bodied young men in the village to join the army to fight in a war. Anyone who resisted would be punished. Since his son had a broken leg, he was exempt from service. At that point, those with sons in the army realized how fortunate the old man's family was. In conclusion, every event in life has both good and bad aspects intertwined, so it's best to go with the flow and not get too caught up in gains and losses. When planning, follow the natural course of things, work hard, and don't obsess over the outcomes. Success or failure is often a matter of chance, and sometimes the joy comes from the journey, not the end result. Don't let success or failure stir you too much or cause undue worry. 71. Strong beginnings. Just like water flows to the edge before becoming a waterfall, people often find renewal at their lowest points. When you're feeling desperate, don't give up too quickly. Just one more step could reveal a field of bright, blooming flowers. Just a little more endurance might lead you to joyful scenes. A friend of mine said he's planning to write a novel about a bank heist that's pretty outlandish. I suggested, "Why not write a love story? I'd love to read a love story written by you." He replied, "I've lost faith in love. How can I write a love story when love just leads to despair?" I told him, "That's perfect. Now is the right time for you to write a love story." We all know many top comedians are very serious people in their private lives, maybe even dull. They might not find life amusing at all. Yet, these are the people who can perform the funniest plays. There's a famous female director who is terrified of blood and darkness. However, the movies she directs are so chilling that they make the audience shiver. The scenes she shoots can be gruesomely violent. Perhaps she closes her eyes while filming these scenes. Despair isn't always bad. Sometimes it marks the turning point to a new life. A person who despairs in love must have a heartbreaking past. A great writer's love stories are not just about love. They reflect life and human existence. The desire for love is a motivation to move beyond our past, pushing us forward. Eventually, everyone dies, and if we never died, would we still love each other passionately? Fate isn't just random luck that falls from the sky. It's about accepting and affirming the limits within our finite lives. Choosing among these limits is our freedom. We are free to love and free to feel despair. Love starts with interest and often ends in despair. Those who have experienced despair might see things more clearly. Writer O. Henry, in his short story, The Last Leaf, tells a tale about a patient, bedridden and losing hope, who watches a withered leaf outside her window constantly battered by strong winds. She suddenly discovers one green leaf that hasn't fallen. She thinks once this leaf falls, her life will end too. So, she spends days watching the leaf, quietly waiting for her own life to end. However, the leaf never falls, and the patient fully recovers. In reality, there were no leaves on the tree at all. The last leaf was painted by an old painter, looking just like a real leaf, giving the patient the strong belief needed to keep living. As long as that painted leaf didn't fall, her life wouldn't end. Eventually, she recovers and goes out to see what the leaf really looks like. Standing under the tree, she's deeply moved by the silent dedication of the painter, who was the only one who knew what she was waiting for. By painting that leaf, the painter gave her the courage to continue living. Saving a life isn't about the leaf itself, but about the solid faith people hold within. 72. Seeking peace and serenity. Ancient wisdom tells us, life and death are predestined and wealth and honor are in heaven's hands. In life, everything is arranged for us and all follows a natural course. Even if we wish to, we cannot change much. The more we strive against this, the less happy we become. Only by accepting our fate can we find true peace of mind. A coworker once asked me, "You don't make more money than I do, but I see you and your friends are very peaceful. You all seem relaxed and free from mental stress. Do you have a secret?" His honesty touched me, and I smiled leisurely and replied, "I don't dream of anything more. Can you do that?" He immediately seemed upset and said, "How can I? I've been so tired lately. My son failed his math test and I don't know what to do. I recently incurred a lot of credit card debt and can't pay it off. I have so much to worry about. Otherwise, more troubles will follow." I calmly told him, "Only when you stop desiring anything will you truly find peace." I shared a story with him about a rich merchant who encountered a beggar. The beggar said, "We are old friends. Could you spare me some money?" The merchant carefully looked at the beggar and said, "I recognize you. You were once wealthy too. Why are you like this now?" The beggar replied, "Last year my house burned down and I lost everything." The merchant asked, "Why did you become a beggar?" "Because I need money for alcohol," the beggar said. "Why do you buy alcohol?" the merchant asked. "With alcohol I find the courage to beg," replied the beggar. Realizing the truth about people often lost in worldly illusions, the merchant sighed. Everyone in this world is addicted to alcohol, women, and money. Therefore, they waste their lives. In the end, everyone ends up 6 feet under. But why live like that? He told the beggar, when you decide you don't need to drink anymore, come see me. And with that, the merchant left. The beggar was disheartened as he couldn't get money from an old friend. Just then, a Taoist priest came by, and the beggar immediately asked, "Can you tell me what tomorrow will bring?" The priest smiled and said, "You have nothing, yet you worry about tomorrow? Why bother about trivial things? We priests strive to be kind, patient, and free of anger or desire. We don't have much food daily. Even when there's no food, we don't feel hungry. How can we still be at peace?" After I finished the story, my coworker seemed to understand a bit and said, "I won't worry about this anymore." I knew he was temporarily stabilized and said, "Try this. Just embody truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Don't hold grudges, don't complain, don't hate, and you'll gradually learn to let go of desires. I hope you can find peace too." I've thought a lot about this, realizing that only those who are compassionate, honest, and patient can be truly serene. When the mind is free of desires, one can see the truth of life and live contentedly. In this world, money and status are seemingly necessary for everyone. But when we pass away, we can't take any of that with us. We constantly struggle, competing and fighting for these things, but in the end, they mean nothing. Moreover, according to the law of cause and effect, a person's status and position are due to the virtue accumulated in past lives. Why do some people have smooth careers and educational paths, while others face many hardships? It's because each person's destiny is different. People often work hard and earn money all their lives, but long for peace and enjoyment towards the end. We keep searching for external peace, forgetting that it's something everyone can achieve just by letting go, desiring less, and accepting our fate. Happiness is right in our hands. 73. Cherishing the simple joys, a tale of finding happiness in everyday life. Sometimes the most valuable happiness is what we often overlook. Having a home to return to, someone waiting for us, and meals to eat every day. An author once said, "What is happiness? Happiness is everything being normal as usual." True happiness can be as simple as someone waving goodbye in the morning and waiting for you in the evening. It's about leaving your school bag in a corner or stuffing your smelly soccer shoes under the table. These are the things we usually don't pay attention to. However, reflecting on this peaceful, ordinary life, if we don't cherish it, we may end up regretting it. There's a simple, short story about this. A puppy asked its mother, "Mom, where is happiness?" The mother dog said, "Happiness is right on your tail." The puppy turned to grab its tail to see what happiness was like. However, it found that no matter how hard it tried, it couldn't catch happiness on its tail. It could only spin around on the ground until it got dizzy. So, it shared its worries with its mother. The mother dog smiled and said, "Don't try to catch your tail. Just keep moving forward and happiness will always follow you." This story helps us realize that we are actually living in happiness without knowing it. Happiness can be as simple as this: leaving work, knowing where you need to go; when night falls, knowing that a light will be turned on for you; when hungry, knowing that a hearty meal awaits you. Plainly put, the most precious happiness that we often overlook is having a house to return to, someone at home waiting, and food to eat. That's it. Someone once said, "If you miss a bus, there's always another one. If you run out of money, you can earn more. If you lose a job, you can find another. But only your home and family are irreplaceable." Happiness is what we search for all our lives, yet it is incredibly simple. It's about the everyday, humble moments, spending each day happily with our family. Home is where life begins and ends, providing solace for our body and soul. After experiencing everything in life and returning to a normal life, one realizes that happiness is just that simple. Having a warm home with loved ones, sharing meals together, experiencing all four seasons, and enjoying each ordinary day without change. Life is fleeting, and through this short story, I hope you can appreciate the happiness you have and also help others who may not realize it to recognize and seize the happiness before it's too late. 74. Heaven favors the virtuous. The Tao Te Ching states, "Heaven's way is impartial, always siding with the good people," meaning that the way of heaven does not favor anyone in particular, but grants blessings to the virtuous. Heaven's way is impartial because heaven's influence is omnipresent and all-encompassing, treating everything in the world equally. Heaven always sides with the good people because virtuous individuals create blessings for all beings and bring good fortune to themselves, naturally gaining heaven's favor. The way of heaven treats us all equally. Therefore, whether or not you can be a virtuous person depends entirely on yourself. How you act will determine your fate. Your inner qualities, whether high or low, will define the breadth of your vision. 75. Keeping good intentions. Don't let money drive you to take advantage of others. Don't hurt others for personal gain. Don't use schemes to harm others, and don't seek ways to torment them. Be simple and uncalculating. Be kind and not cruel. Be sincere and not deceitful. Respect your parents. Be genuine with your friends. Cherish your partner, and be enthusiastic with your colleagues. Treat everyone around you kindly, care for those next to you, and always leave room for yourself and others to have a way forward. Give to others with love, reward others with compassion, and as long as you keep a cheerful spirit, blessings will always be near. By maintaining good intentions and speaking gently, you can create positive connections with others. 76. The reward of integrity. A tale of lost and found. People who do good deeds may not see immediate rewards, but they do avoid misfortune. As Zhuangzi said, "Those who harbor good intentions in their hearts may not yet receive their blessings, but calamities will stay away from them." Many of us strive for good fortune throughout our lives. Some people pray to gods and hope for divine help. However, blessings are not granted by others or found in specific places. They are the result of our own spiritual practices. There's an ancient story recorded in the Worldly Wisdom sayings about a couple, Lu and Ungok, who lived in the east of Wuxi City. They had an only son named Xin He. When he was 3 or 4 years old, he was kidnapped during a lantern festival. Despite searching the entire city, the couple could not find their son and had to borrow money to continue their search. The journey was tough, with high mountains and deep waters and limited funds. Lungok resorted to doing small trades along the way to make extra money. One day, while traveling, Lu found a bag containing 200 silver coins. Despite his poverty, he knew it was wrong to take what did not belong to him and waited for the owner. Eventually, the silver was returned to its rightful owner. The grateful owner invited Lu to his home, offered him fine wine and food, and even tried to give him some money as a token of appreciation. Lu refused to accept the money. Impressed by Lu's integrity, the owner asked if Lu had a son, hoping to arrange a marriage with his daughter. Moved by the story of his missing son, Lu shared everything with the owner. The owner, empathetic and moved by the story, offered to entrust Lu with a young servant boy he had to raise as his own. As fate would have it, this young servant was actually Shini. The story ends happily with Shini marrying the owner's daughter and their children also becoming successful. This tale shows that a kind heart not only brings blessings to oneself, but also prosperity to the family, and even benefits future generations. This illustrates that good-hearted people receive blessings, and those who are sincere often encounter good fortune. With a heart full of goodwill, one will surely be protected by the divine, and with sincerity, blessings naturally follow. 77. Your appearance really does reflect your personality. Here's something you might notice in life. Some people might initially seem very refined, but the more you look, the more ordinary they appear, while others might seem average at first, but grow more appealing the more you see them. This often happens because a person's face can show their true character, and their character, in turn, influences their looks. Just like in the novel Dream of the Red Chamber, where the character Lin Dai-yu is described with brows faintly knitted, as if worried but not quite. She's kind-hearted, fragile like a spring flower, smart and lively with a delicate, almost ethereal demeanor. Over time, a person's character can actually change their physical appearance. There's an old saying, "The face changes with the heart," meaning a person's appearance will change with their thoughts and feelings. If you are generous, your face tends to look serene. If you are friendly, you'll often find yourself naturally smiling. If you are simple, your expression is as joyful as a child's. If you are deceitful, confusion and uncertainty cloud your eyes. If you are bold, your eyebrows easily furrow. Your mental state, if it undergoes positive changes, not only transforms your appearance but can also enhance your aura. If you want to maintain a beautiful appearance, then your soul must also be bright, as only inner beauty can sustain outer beauty over time. 78. Your appearance reflects your life. We often say that judging someone solely by their appearance is superficial. However, sometimes appearances can indeed provide accurate insights. This kind of appearance isn't just about how we look on the outside, but also includes our facial expressions, eyes, speech, gestures, and overall demeanor. You can often tell if someone's life is good or not just by looking at their appearance. There has been a study linking salaries to attractiveness, showing that good-looking people typically earn 15% more than average-looking individuals. This doesn't mean that just being visually appealing will get you favored by your superiors. Rather, those who are good-looking often have many other advantages. Behind every beautiful woman, there is usually a more refined lifestyle. They choose their food carefully, rest properly, read regularly, and consistently exercise. Your appearance truly reflects your way of life. Having a naturally attractive appearance is a gift, but having a presence that makes others feel comfortable and relaxed requires self-control and maintenance. Each of us has a responsibility to take care of our own appearance. 79. Your appearance reflects your experiences. Some say, if God gives you a beautiful face, you must be careful, as it's a test of your character. If your character is mediocre, it will show on your face, transforming beauty into vulgarity. Take the story of Kwak Uyen Doan, who many might know. Born into a prestigious family, she endured unstable times and even worked in labor camps during her youth. Despite hardships, she meticulously maintained her grace and elegance. In her later years, she was still a refined lady. Tran Dan Yen, recounting a meeting with her, noted her snow-white hair and blue fur coat, adding that even at 86, she radiated beauty that overshadowed her younger companions. This demeanor is only achieved by those who endure hardships and embrace life's challenges, eventually cultivating a calm and graceful character. True beauty is not merely superficial. It's shaped by daily cultivation and can be discerned even in a crowd, reflecting the soul's true form. The British writer Russell once said, "A person's face is the outward value of that individual, It not only conceals their life, but also the life they strive for. Your appearance doesn't just relate to your present, it can also influence your future. But remember, appearance can be transformed. Therefore, be a person of simple goodness, optimism, filled with love and gratitude. Cultivate a rich soul and a hopeful demeanor, becoming ever more refined. Such a person will undoubtedly become more beautiful. 80. True happiness. The saddest part of life is that people often live in happiness without realizing it, always searching for it elsewhere, which tires their spirits. Only when they lose it do they understand how happy they were. A few days ago, I was chatting with a friend who told me about her mother. They are quite wealthy, with a 100 square meter house, but her mother never feels it's enough. She always envies others' mansions, constantly feeling gloomy and complaining to her children and grandchildren. She believes that life must be like those of others to be considered luxurious. Her son, trying to fulfill her dream of living in a mansion, invested all his money into a business, but unfortunately it failed. Financially strained, they had to sell their house to pay off debts, and his mother ended up living in a tiny 10 square meter house in an alley. It's true that they were living in happiness without realizing it, and human desires can be frightening. I also remember the story of the grateful goldfish. The fish, wanting to repay the old fisherman who saved its life, granted all his wishes. His wife wanted a new wooden tub, and she got it. She wanted a big house, and she got that too. But that wasn't enough for her. She then wanted to be a lady, and after becoming a lady, she wanted to be a queen. But still, it wasn't enough. Finally, the goldfish stopped caring about her, and their life returned to how it was at the beginning. This story shows us that human desires have no limits. One day, I read online, life is inherently happy, only humans never feel it's enough. If carrying burdens is suffering, then doing nothing is happiness. If walking is suffering, then riding a donkey is happiness. If being cold and hungry is suffering, then being warm and well-fed is happiness. This is true. Only those who feel content find happiness. Many people agree with this view, but how many can actually live this way in reality? I also came across a story called The Poor Man and the Angel. There was a poor man living in a tiny house with 4 generations under one roof, always cramped and miserable. He prayed to an angel to help him escape this dire situation. The angel appeared and told him to bring chickens and ducks inside his house to live together for a week. After a week of enduring this, the man begged the angel again for help. The angel appeared once more and told him to let the animals out and come back after another week. A week later, the man knelt before the angel, grateful for the blessing, as he now felt very happy. In life, many of us are like that poor man, always complaining that life is unfair, thinking that others have it better than us. In fact, happiness is often right beside us, and we don't realize it. As in the story, the angel didn't give the poor man anything new. He only made him realize, you shouldn't focus on what you don't have, but rather on what you do have. Sometimes, it's not that life is unfair. It's that our desires are too many. We live in happiness without knowing it. Only when something goes wrong do we remember how things were and realize that it was enough to be truly happy. We shouldn't always search for happiness if we're already living in it. Instead, walk your path and enjoy your own life. Time never passes without purpose. It helps us realize the value of what we've lost, which teaches us to cherish our current lives more. 81. The Old Fisherman and the Golden Fish. When the old man returned home, he was shocked to find that the palace and castle had disappeared. All that was left was his old, broken-down hut and his wife sitting next to a chipped pig trough. This is the ending of the fairy tale, The Old Fisherman and the Golden Fish, which many of us have probably read a few times in our childhood. This story teaches us a lesson. Those who are endlessly greedy, wanting more and more, will end up with nothing in the end. However, there are deeper life lessons hidden in this tale, which we can discover upon deeper reflection. The story starts when a poor old fisherman accidentally catches a golden fish who begs to be released. Feeling pity, he lets it go back to the sea. The fish, being magical, promises to grant any wish the fisherman desires. Initially, the old man claims he wants nothing, but when his wife hears the story, she demands a new pig trough to replace their old broken one. The golden fish grants this request. Yet the wife remains unsatisfied and soon asks for a large house instead of their dilapidated shack, which the fish also grants. Next, she wants to be a lady of high rank, and then a queen, both of which the fish fulfills. Once she becomes queen, however, she treats her husband cruelly, but he does not resist her. Still unsatisfied, the wife then demands to become a sea goddess, the ruler of the vast ocean, forcing the golden fish to serve her. This time, when the old man relays the wish, the fish disappears without a word. When the old man returns home, he finds that the castle and palace have vanished, and even the new pig trough is gone. His wife is back to being the simple woman she once was, no longer a queen. This story illustrates that divine beings cannot satisfy human greed. Many people wonder, if gods truly exist, why don't they make our country wealthy and our lives better? The tale of the old fisherman and the golden fish answers this by showing that human greed is bottomless. What defines wealth and progress? For the fisherman's wife, initially a new pig trough was sufficient, but as her wishes were granted, she wanted more and more, with no end to her desires. This story also raises the question, can divine beings continually fulfill such unreasonable human demands? In many religions, the concept of karma teaches that to be happy and prosperous, one must do good deeds and act virtuously, not merely ask or demand from divine beings. Divine beings urge humans to abandon desires, cultivate morality, and adhere to good, shunning evil. The old fisherman, though kind-hearted and unselfish, makes the mistake of appeasing evil by not opposing his wife's growing greed. This tale warns us that the world suffers not because of evil people alone, but because good people remain silent in the face of wrongdoing. The fisherman's inaction allowed his wife's evil to grow, harming many others. This story tells us that if we remain silent and fearful in the face of evil, even if we do not directly commit evil acts, we are not innocent. Moreover, our silence allows evil to expand, harming more people, making us complicit. Someday, we might have to face the consequences for our silence and fear in the face of evil. 82. Why are you angry? Once, a woman's daughter and son-in-law had an argument. The son-in-law was very aggressive and uncontrolled, something that would usually make any normal person step in to defend their own child. However, the woman remained objective. She found the root of their argument without taking sides, comforted her daughter, and educated her son-in-law. She kindly pointed out her daughter's faults. Eventually, her daughter acknowledged her issues and made up with her husband, saving the family from an unnecessary divorce. Her son, working far from home, was cheated out of his money. He sought help everywhere but found none. The woman advised her son to take a loss as a blessing and even gave him some money to start over. Her husband was hot-tempered and often harsh with her, yet she never took it to heart and always told others that he was a good person, just harsh in words but kind at heart. Some might think enduring such things is foolish. However, looking at it from another perspective, everyone faces troubles in life. Getting angry and fighting only adds to the suffering and doesn't change anything. Only those with a generous spirit who do not dwell on gains and losses can cleverly navigate out of conflicts and turn bad situations into good. An old saying goes, "A general's belly can steer a boat," meaning if one does not have great patience and a generous heart, they cannot be a leader or accomplish great things. People who are grateful and those who hold grudges end up with very different fates. When interacting with others, the grateful person appreciates their virtues, while the resentful person picks at their flaws. When receiving kindness, the grateful person is moved to tears, whereas the resentful person feels it's never enough. When offered an apology, the grateful person forgives generously, while the resentful person remains filled with anger. When helped, the grateful remember and appreciate the kindness, whereas the resentful only complain about the help not being thoughtful enough. When given advice, the grateful are thankful for the good intentions, whereas the resentful suspect ulterior motives. Externally, everyone lives in different circumstances, but internally, each lives within their own inner world. When each person embraces the Buddhist teachings of universal compassion, the grateful use every challenge as an opportunity to progress continually, while the resentful keep blaming and thus deepen their negative karma and fall deeper into misfortune. The grateful have a spirit of loyalty and integrity, like quality material that can be shaped into any form. The resentful, harboring deceit and rebellion, are like faulty materials that mostly end up as defective products. 83. What is maturity? What does it mean to be mature? Is it having gray hair and wrinkles? No, those are just the marks of time passing. True maturity is not something you can see. It might be compared to a ripe peach, soft and sweet. We often think that as we get older, our souls mature as well, but that's not necessarily true. Maturity is more like a process of evolving through life's challenges. It's the calm after you've longed for something and didn't get it, the smile after tears of hardship, and the inner desire to rise above after facing failures. Real maturity has never been about age or time. It's about having a peaceful and balanced inner state. It's like the moon shining through the clouds, or a dragon soaring through the storm, or being in harmony with the earth and its elements, much like a fish that swims effortlessly upstream. In the Northern Song dynasty, there was a great poet named Su Shi. Despite enduring many hardships in life, he maintained a calm and leisurely demeanor, finding joy even in suffering. Su Shi was a man of integrity, direct in his approach. He was demoted because of a poem he wrote criticizing the government's salt tax policy, which led him to live in a small, simple room by the river in Huangzhou. With no money and no food, Su Shi had to farm the land himself. Yet, facing extreme hardships, Su Shi never let his spirit be troubled by poverty. He lived cheerfully in his small riverbank home. In Huangzhou, Su Shi led a simple life, reading, composing poetry, painting, and practicing calligraphy. He built his house, grew vegetables, dug wells, and farmed, enjoying the rustic scenery. Despite the hardships of his prolonged exile, he fell in love with this desolate place and devoted almost all his time to writing poetry and painting. His character and achievements are still admired today. 84. Reaching maturity. If growing up can be compared to trees blooming, then reaching maturity is like the process of bearing fruit. From tiny seedlings to the moment blossoms open, each tree undergoes a growth and development process. However, not every flower will bear fruit, just as not every individual who grows older necessarily becomes mature. Maturity is a state of being, like being a light for oneself in the darkest sky. When covered in fog and unable to see the path ahead, a mature person knows to slow down, calm their mind, and wait patiently amidst the turmoil for the right opportunity. A mature person understands that everyone is born with a purpose. They recognize that no one is as simple as they appear on the surface, and that everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. As one matures, they learn that life requires forgiving oneself and others, even one's enemies. The sea accepts 100 rivers because it is large enough to hold them, and forgiving others' mistakes is also a way of freeing oneself. Life is fleeting, like a breeze that quickly turns black hair to white. A mature heart does not dwell on momentary gains or losses. The stronger the wind, the calmer the heart. The heavier the rain, the firmer the resolve. 85. Maturity isn't about age, it's about your inner self. Age is just a number, but maturity is about what's inside. Mature people possess an incredibly calm spirit. Maturity is like a river quietly rising at night, calm on the surface but gathering tremendous force underneath, capable of washing away everything. If everyone has a halo, the most mature people would have a white one, bright but not blinding, dazzling but not showy, lively yet steady. A mature heart is like water, gentle yet strong, with no trace of joy or sorrow lingering too long. Maturity doesn't depend on age but on a peaceful and stable inner state, staying strong like a mountain no matter how the world changes or how the wind blows and rain falls. Growing up, becoming mature, is a personal journey and a form of self-improvement. It is also a process of reflection and an aspect of life itself. Along the path to maturity, we all experience and learn a lot. No matter how long or tough the road is, each step that makes us more mature is a success in itself. 86. Forgetting the good deeds you've done for others. There's an old saying that goes, "Give without expecting anything in return. If you expect something back, don't give." However, in life, some people after helping others feel that the recipient owes them a debt of gratitude. They constantly think that others should be thankful and owe them in return. When in the presence of others, they sometimes behave arrogantly and show little respect. This attitude might be tolerated once or twice, but if it continues, it can really bother those who have received help. This makes the helper feel even more uncomfortable, thinking that the other person is ungrateful, and ends up feeling like they wasted their kindness, leading to disappointment, frustration, and even resentment. Helping others should be a good thing, but constantly remembering and keeping track of it can become a burden, making it hard to live happily and comfortably. Remember, everyone needs help at some point, so try to remember more of the help you've received than the help you've given. This way, your life will feel much lighter. 87. Letting go of resentment. In life, we meet many people and experience a lot of events. Among these, there might be people who infuriate us to the point of madness, making us clench our teeth in anger. There could also be situations that bind us, even disturbing our ability to eat and sleep well. When someone harbors resentment, it's like imprisoning their own heart in a jail. Their gaze is constantly fixed on the person they resent, and they may act unconsciously towards them, gradually losing their true selves. Holding on to discomfort is like a painful scar. Every time it's remembered, it hurts all over again, and the more we cling to it, the harder it is to heal. Therefore, in life, don't hesitate to be a bit forgetful. Forget past resentments and anger towards others. Letting go is the best form of liberation. When the day comes that we let go of these burdens, we will find that the warm sun, long unseen, finally breaks through the darkness to shine brightly upon us. 88. Don't get caught up in past glory. Some say that getting caught up in a glorious past is the biggest obstacle to the future. Everyone has a past, a time when they felt proud and successful, but that is all in the past. However, many people don't understand this and use their past to define their current lives. They see that others didn't have as good a past as they did, but now those people are doing much better, which can be frustrating. They don't want to make an effort to catch up and feel it's unfair. Why should someone who was poor before now be doing so well? As others move forward, these individuals cling to the past and believe they are smarter, only to find themselves increasingly left behind and their lives stagnating. Those who dwell on their past successes refuse to let go, believing they are truly talented but just not lucky, blaming life for deliberately placing obstacles in their path. This leads to resentment and dissatisfaction, causing them to view everything negatively. The past, no matter how splendid, cannot stay. If we don't dwell on the past glory, we won't stop moving forward, won't harbor dissatisfaction with life, and can progress beautifully step by step. 89. Please be someone who can easily forget. Look around at the people near us, and you'll notice that those with good memories often don't have comfortable lives. They constantly hold on to too many people and events, unable to let go, thus trapping themselves and always struggling in misery. Life is very short, with no time to waste on suffering. Why not be someone with a slightly worse memory? There's no need to let past people and events tie you down. Life must move forward, leaving behind others, the past, and even ourselves. 90. To make things go smoothly, like flowing water. Water does not have a fixed shape. It flows along, taking the path of least resistance. Yet there's an old saying that a mountain cannot stop water. Water will flow and even wear down rocks over time. Ancient wisdom teaches that behaving gently and going with the flow, like water, will make everything work out as desired. This idea is encapsulated in the concept of not competing. Not competing differs from not striving to progress. By limiting competition, one respects the natural laws, avoiding disruption of the balance in all things, not sacrificing the greater good for trivial gains, nor losing oneself amidst constant changes. Acting hastily is also discouraged, as there's a saying, haste makes waste. Before doing anything, it's wise to consider carefully, plan methodically, and then proceed cautiously, step by step. This approach is like water flowing slowly, not rushing or getting ahead of itself. Furthermore, a small stream flows slowly but surely, and will eventually become a larger body of water. Thus, those who aspire to be great must learn humility and cultivate an attitude of not competing to truly rise above. 91. Happiness or sorrow? It's up to you. Life is your own, and ultimately, how you live it is your decision. No one can stop you from being at ease, nor can they restrict your happiness. Buddhism teaches that happiness doesn't come from outside. Rather, happiness is within the mind. Thus, joy, freedom, and peace are all within your control. In life, sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we must do things we'd rather not. However, who can control your inner thoughts and feelings? Only you can decide what goes on inside you. Some people can find joy in any situation, while others struggle. This just shows that if your mind is at peace, everything around you will feel more peaceful. Even in difficult times, you can remain joyful without having to seek a different path. Some people never seem satisfied, always chasing desires and engaging in conflicts, moving further away from their goals. They might achieve great success, but find little joy in it. Ultimately, our happiness or sorrow is our own choice, not dependent on external circumstances. For instance, a woman who doesn't care for jewels won't be moved by them, no matter how plentiful they might be. A poor scholar might prefer a life full of books over a life full of diamonds. Those who are content with a simple life in the countryside don't envy the achievements or riches of others. The more tranquil your life, the brighter your inner peace. There's no need to show off. True peace comes from a calm spirit. Happiness is about the well-being of the body and the tranquility of the soul. Good health brings everyday joy, while a serene and peaceful mind is the ultimate bliss. 92. Big and small. Do you know yourself? A friend once told me about visiting his aunt who, throughout her life, had never worn shoes that actually fit. She always wore shoes that were too big. When asked why, she said, "Big or small, shoes cost the same, so why not get the bigger ones?" Every time I share this story, it gets a lot of laughs. However, in life, we often encounter many such ants. For instance, some people who aren't writers produce voluminous, intense books. Others who aren't artists repeatedly create enormous, extraordinary paintings. Many people constantly strive for greatness, often driven by greed, much like buying shoes that are too big, forgetting their own size. When buying shoes, the perfect fit is what matters most, just as being reasonable and measured is the wisest approach in pursuing anything. 93. The sound of ticking. One day, a father accidentally lost his wristwatch and became frustrated as he searched everywhere for it, but to no avail. When he went outside, his child quietly entered the room and quickly found the watch. The father asked, "How did you find it?" The child replied, "I just sat quietly and soon I could hear a small ticking sound, and that's how I found it." Morale. The more desperately we search for something, the harder it can be to find. Only by calming down can we hear the sound at the heart of things. 94. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you. In the Analects, Wei Ling Gong, there is a story where Zigong asked, "Is there one word that one can follow throughout one's life?" Confucius replied, "Perhaps it is forbearance. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you." To become a gentle person, you only need to do two things. First, stay calm and forgive. When faced with others' mistakes and shortcomings, we should always be tolerant and calm, strict with ourselves, patient with others, not unreasonable, careful in our actions, and forgiving others as a way of forgiving ourselves. Second is to empathize. Before you do something, think from the other person's perspective, seek a balance of interests, and use the best approach to achieve a mutually beneficial situation, making everyone feel comfortable. By doing this, you can avoid uncomfortable situations in most relationships, navigate any circumstance without fear, and maintain a warm and elegant image. Such people often get promoted and receive raises fastest and most stably. Beyond work, in family and life, they are adept at resolving conflicts correctly and skillfully, always making others feel like a breath of fresh spring air. 95. Expanding your heart, the path to peace and fulfillment. There's a saying, "Open your heart an inch, and the road widens by a yard." If you are forgiving, you can forgive many things that might seem unforgivable, and this will spare you a lot of heartache. A truly cultivated person can use compassion and tolerance to help others succeed, and by doing so, they also succeed themselves. Life isn't always smooth, so when we can't change reality, we should try to adjust our mindset. If you're always calculating, you'll only find resentment everywhere. If you let go, you'll always be at peace, like in springtime. If you keep things simple, the world can't become complicated. If you are like the sun, it's hard for others to get hurt. 96. Others aren't shy about asking, so why should you hesitate to say no? Some people are very direct when they ask for help. They don't consider whether their request might be inconvenient or awkward for you. They only think about their own feelings, assuming it's normal for you to help and wrong if you don't. They believe helping them is expected and not helping makes you seem cold and uncaring. But they forget that no one owes anyone anything in life. So if I choose to help you, it's out of kindness, and it's perfectly okay if I don't. A few days ago, I got a call from Tung, who I hadn't heard from in a while. His first words were, "Is the XX store run by your relative? A friend of mine is visiting today. Get us a discount, okay?" His tone was more like giving an order than asking for a favor. Reluctantly, I called my relative to arrange a discount and let Tung know. Right after I told him, he hung up without even a thank you. That made me feel really upset and angry at myself for being too polite to refuse. It wasn't just about the money. It was the lack of any appreciation that really bothered me. People who don't appreciate help will eventually take it for granted. Your politeness only fuels their greed. With such people, you shouldn't worry about hurting their feelings. Instead, you need to be firm and clearly say no. 97. Politeness can sometimes lead to humiliating situations because of pride. There are some people who claim to have a good relationship with you and come to you for help. Even their family members reach out when they need assistance. Out of kindness, you reluctantly agree, only to find that they start demanding more and more, effectively turning you into a tool for their benefit. This person brags everywhere about their close relationship with you, claiming it makes many things easier to handle without any cost. But what they don't realize is how much you actually want to say no every time you help. This person is exactly like that. At the time, I was managing a sales department, and he bought a car with my help. I felt I couldn't refuse him. But soon after, he brought a relative to buy a car, then a colleague, then the colleague's friends, and even people who had no connection to us at all. It was endless. Everyone tried to bargain hard, exploiting our supposed friendship, making me wish I could just give him a car to make it stop. Because I cared about our friendship, I always had to keep smiling. But inside, I was deeply conflicted. Ironically, he didn't see how much trouble he was causing me and even boasted that he was helping my business. He often expected me to take him out to dinner to thank him, which was shocking to me. Finally, there was an incident where he brought a friend to buy a car, and I couldn't meet his unreasonable demands. From that point on, it was as if I had committed a major betrayal by not recognizing my own family member. Our relationship deteriorated over time, and the friendship that was once strong was slowly ruined by my excessive politeness, and our bond gradually grew distant. 98. The cost of politeness. A lesson in lending money to friends. Saying no to others isn't wrong, so don't let politeness hurt you. When I was in college, I had a friend with whom I got along quite well. One day she told me that her mother was ill and asked to borrow money from me. Because I couldn't bear to say no and genuinely wanted to help, I gave her the money that was meant for my living expenses, even though I was just a poor student. Helping a friend in need is the right thing to do, but after things got better, I felt awkward asking her to pay me back, all because I was too polite and embarrassed, making things difficult for myself. Then, in the following days, because I didn't dare to tell my parents I had lent out my living expense money, I ended up struggling financially. I had to be very careful with every penny, and my living standards kept dropping. It was then that I truly realized how money can complicate matters. Half a year passed without any sign of her paying me back. I saw her several times and wanted to ask about it, but I hesitated and ended up not saying anything, losing the chance to ever bring it up again. People say that money issues aren't really issues, but it seems money can test the strength of relationships. Ling once said that there are many ways to ruin a relationship, but the kind of storm that can completely uproot it is lending money. How many times have conflicts arisen from borrowing money, often starting because we're afraid to say no? 99. Finding enlightenment in everyday work, the spiritual practice of diligence. Do you need to retreat to the mountains to practice spirituality? Kazuo Inamori, one of Japan's most renowned businessmen, once said, "Work itself is spiritual practice, and the workplace is our temple. Each task is an opportunity to cultivate ourselves. This cultivation isn't about sitting still and chanting prayers, it's about inner strength and action. Work holds profound and far-reaching value for everyone. It helps us overcome desires, refine our character, and develop our personalities. Its purpose goes beyond merely satisfying our daily needs, which is just a secondary benefit of labor. Therefore, dedicating oneself fully to daily tasks is crucial for achieving the highest form of spiritual practice in nurturing the soul and enhancing our character." Buddha emphasized diligence as crucial, a method to reach enlightenment through persistent effort in our current tasks. By focusing on work, we can tap into our potential, effectively cultivating our character and refining our temperament. This focus not only helps us maintain our professional integrity, but also builds a deeply rooted character through consistent effort. There's a saying, "Accomplishments in work are inferior to the accomplishment of being a diligent worker." This labor is indeed venerable, and wholeheartedly loving our job is the essence of spiritual practice. Character must be developed through work, suggesting that philosophy emerges from the sweat of our brow and temperament is forged in daily labor. Fully engaging in our work, ceaselessly thinking and striving hard is the way to truly appreciate each day and moment of life. Life happens only once. We must live each day with utmost seriousness without wasting a single moment, embracing sincerity to the extreme. This seemingly foolish attitude, if sustained, allows even the most ordinary person to achieve greatness. Those recognized as celebrities or leaders in their fields likely follow this path. Labor not only generates economic value, but also contributes to humanity. Hence, why should one need to escape the mundane world? The workplace is the best environment for spiritual training. Working is a form of spiritual practice. By earnestly working each day and cultivating a noble character, one can easily lead a beautiful life. In this competitive era, only those with a strong, energetic spirit can excel. Life isn't about indulgence, but a significant undertaking. We all aspire to be progressive, but knowing where to start can be challenging. Revisiting your well-understood philosophy of life can nourish a healthy mindset. People on earth must stay forever awake. Some live for their jobs, others for their dreams, and some continue living to find out what they truly live for. Being born is a gift from God, but living well depends on our wisdom and courage. Only by taking action can we achieve our ideals and goals. Only through effort can we attain resounding success. Only by sowing can we reap. Only by pursuing can we experience what it means to live uprightly. By focusing on learning, dedicating ourselves to our work, practicing spirituality through our tasks, refining our professional spirit, actively changing our attitudes, and unleashing an increasingly strong life energy, can we achieve a calm and healthy life. 100. Don't show off being smarter than others. Many people have a bad habit of interrupting others before they can finish their thoughts, believing they are smarter or more knowledgeable. Imagine this scenario. A group of friends is eagerly listening to one of them passionately telling a gripping story. Everyone is intensely focused and excited. Then another person joins in, not caring about the flow, and spoils the ending of the story. This not only disrupts the listener's enjoyment, but also dampens the storyteller's spirits. The interrupter generally loses the goodwill of the group. The book Tai Can Dam mentions, speaking 10 sentences, 9 may be correct and not surprise anyone, but just one wrong sentence can bring continuous mistakes. It's like a goalkeeper in soccer. Saving 9 out of 10 shots might not win much praise, but missing one can make them the scapegoat. Even if you know something, it doesn't always mean you should say it. If you think something is inappropriate, it's often better to keep it to yourself. There are many cases where it's wiser to hold your thoughts. Interrupting not only loses goodwill but can also lead to unnecessary misunderstandings. Consider a young man who loves a girl but is too shy to confess. Unexpectedly, she approaches him and admits, "I like you." Overjoyed, he begins to respond, "You are a great girl." But before he can finish, she interrupts, "Okay, I know. You don't need to say more." Embarrassed, he stammers, I. She coldly cuts him off again. "No need to say more. Goodbye." He was just about to say, "I like you too," but his nervousness and her haste ended the conversation prematurely. This, and many other awkward or funny situations, often arise from not patiently listening to others. Not interrupting is a basic social etiquette and represents the highest level of personal cultivation. It shows humility and understanding, avoiding the assumption that one's own thoughts should be imposed on others. 101. Respect others. It's true that sometimes you have so much to say that it's hard to keep it inside. Speaking your mind can bring great joy. However, this joy should be built on a foundation of respecting others. Knowing how to express yourself without bothering or annoying someone else is truly an art. Nature gave us 2 ears but only 1 mouth for a reason, so that we might listen more and speak less. To truly listen, one must let go of their ego, fully empathize with the other person, and genuinely care about what they are saying. This is why listening can be so challenging. Everyone has the right to express themselves, but in many cases, it's more beneficial to hold back rather than to go on and on. One year, in a small American village, a young boy kept trying to jump as high as he could towards the moon. His curious mother asked, "What are you doing?" Excitedly pointing to the bright moon, he said, "I have to jump up there." The mother was startled, but quietly listened to his imaginative tale of flying to the moon. After hearing him out, she chuckled, patted his head, and said, "That's great, but remember to come home for dinner." Years later, Neil Armstrong, that boy, became the first person to walk on the moon. What was once a playful story became reality. If his mother hadn't listened to his fanciful story and instead had scolded him or interrupted, would the world have the great Armstrong we know today? 102. The Tale of the Donkey Carrying Sacred Relics. This is a fable by French writer La Fontaine and is one of his notable works. The story is about a donkey that, on its first day, is assigned by the priest to carry sacred relics. Seeing the worshippers bowing devoutly before it, the donkey feels a sense of pride and satisfaction. The next day, the priest sends it to pull a millstone. Still caught up in the glory of the previous day, the donkey refuses to obey and is beaten by its owner, causing it to cry loudly. Hearing this story, a 10-year-old child remarks, "Don't forget, you're just a donkey." Indeed, there are many donkeys in the world who confuse themselves with sacred beings. When in power, they are arrogant and haughty. When powerless, they are dejected and anxious. When holding a position, they are boastful. When ousted, their spirit is broken. A donkey remains a donkey, and sacred relics are just that. Even children understand this basic truth, so why do adults still deceive themselves? Carrying sacred relics can be addictive, like opium. No matter how long the donkey carries the relics, one day they will have to be removed. Similarly, Everyone wants to live a life of glory. People come from all directions to pay homage, not only giving spiritual joy, but also providing necessities like food, clothing, shelter, and transportation, along with plenty of money. However, this is no different than a donkey carrying sacred relics, mistakenly believing that the luxury is its own. Eventually, becoming accustomed to it, it naturally fears loss and lives in misery. In reality, only a person's physical appearance, interests, skills, personality, and thoughts are truly integral to their existence. The days spent carrying the relics are merely fleeting moments in the memories of a lifetime. The book Essential Conversation says, "The mouth is the gateway to the heart. Those who speak in anger lose more the more they speak. Those who are cultivated always have room for others in their hearts. Hence, they never interrupt but know how to listen and understand." A good listener doesn't need to do much. Just sitting there attentively is enough to enrich one's inner self thoroughly. Fate grants everyone the same amount of good fortune. Some spend theirs quickly in anger, while others preserve it throughout their lives by nurturing patience. The better someone's temperament, the more fortune they accumulate. With a harmonious heart, view the world kindly and treat everyone around you with goodness. By being less hasty, you naturally gain more virtue.
Hey everyone, your comments truly matter, offering insights and motivation to others and uplifting our creative team at Lighthouse of Wisdom channel. Sharing your thoughts and experiences enriches our community. So, let's get the conversation started below and help illuminate our path with your wisdom.